which is Earth Day at the time that we're recording this. And this village board meeting is now called to order. We'll begin with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have some very exciting projects on tonight's work session agenda. I didn't check to see if all of us have a couple of announcements. I'll get started, and then anybody else can chime in if you have more things to share with the community. As I mentioned, today's meeting is happening on Earth Day. I hope you were down at the Ossining Waterfront this past Saturday. We had a fantastically successful Green Ossining Earth Day Festival. It was the 5th time that we've done that, and this was certainly Mother Nature helped out with gorgeous, gorgeous weather, and it really was a smashing success with some new exciting things happening. It was really nice to have Chris Soy. This was his first one as our superintendent of recreation and parks, and he was a big part of that success, including bringing getting some people really out on the water, doing kayaking and some other fun stuff in the water. So Green Ossining is also, you can check them out on greenossining.org, and while you're there, do 2 things. Sign up for their newsletter. It's new. We've only had a couple of issues, and it gets so much information about things that are happening in the community that are of interest to anybody who is concerned about environmental issues or anybody who is interested in saving money on things like solar and energy efficiency. And you can also sign up if you are somebody who is thinking about hosting a tag sale. You can do it on May 2nd and be part of the Green Ossining town-wide tag sale. And you'll get a lawn sign that looks like this, and you'll be part of an online map. So anybody who wants to go tag sale shopping on Saturday, May 2nd, will be able to find you at the greenossining.org website. So go ahead, check it out, greenossining.org, sign up for the newsletter, and find out about the tag sale, either to host it at your house and be one of the many homes that it's participating, or to be a shopper and find out where to go. And I will also give one quick shout out to the Solarize Ossining Briarcliff program. This next week, May 29th, which is next Wednesday, at the Briarcliff Public Library at 7 p.m., 7 to 8:30. Anybody who is interested in residential solar can meet the selected residential solar installer at the Briarcliff Library, 7 o'clock, Wednesday the 29th. That's Ross Solar. And as you may have heard me explain, this is a public-private partnership. All the municipalities in our community, the villages of Briarcliff and Ossining, the town of Ossining, partnering with Green Ossining and nonprofit organizations and solar installers, one for residential solar installations and one for commercial solar installations. Please go ahead, look online, Solarize Ossining Briarcliff, just search for it, you'll find it. You'll learn about why we're doing this, why the prices are lower than if you were to go with these same systems in another way. And the reason why we're doing it is just because we know it's a great program. There's a lot of hurdles to getting solar. It's tough to do all the research and then to go ahead and make the decision. And this is a program where the municipalities have been working with nonprofits to do some really hardcore research with NYSERDA and getting grants from the state to help make it easier for any residential or commercial property owners to go ahead to move forward with solar. So if you're all interested in learning about it, next Wednesday, the 29th at the Briarcliff Library. Anyone else?
I signed up on Earth Day.
Great.
They had a booth at Earth Day, so I signed up, and what I'm going to do is at every meeting I'm going to tell you guys how the process is going. So far, I filled out all the information, and today they went up on my roof. I wasn't there, so this way I didn't have a heart attack, but they were all climbing all over my roof with these machines that test how much sunlight you get, because everybody's house is different. And so shortly I'll get a report on how viable it will be for me to put solar, because they look at my Con Ed bills, they look at how much sun I get, and they can actually tell you how much energy those solar panels will, over the course of the year, create, and what kind of savings I can expect from having it. So when I get that report, I'll tell all you guys how that went. So I'm very excited about this, and I have to tell you, it's really cool that this program makes solar energy for poor people like me to afford it. Very cool.
Well, Trustee Drago, this is very exciting that you're going to be a test case for everybody to follow along with. That's great. Thank
Yeah.
you. And I understand that they've already gotten to the Tier 2 pricing. As more people sign up, the price goes down for everybody, regardless of when you sign up. Yep. Very good.
So sign up, save me money.
Sounds good.
Trustee Herrera, did you have an announcement to make?
I did. Good evening. Next Thursday, April 30th, will be the Uptown Business District Initiative, which is being led by the Chamber of Commerce and newly appointed Uptown Ambassador Mike Risco from Mike Risco Music Store, School, and I'm missing something else. But
Entertainment.
And entertainment, yes, I was close. This is great because this is the partnership with people who are in the chamber and prospective new members who are going to really try to build a sense of community and communication that at a continual basis meets up and sees how they could really better the areas that they feel had not received as much attention versus our downtown and other areas in the village. So I encourage you to join them. The kickoff is Thursday, April 30th at Dragonfly Wellness Yoga Studio. And it's for any businesses or service providers or any residents who want to learn more about it on Croton Avenue, Pleasantville Road, and Camp Woods Roads. For more information, you can call the Chamber at 941-0009. My next announcement is I'm not stopping my virtual office hours, but I have been analyzing to see which is best use of time and which outlets our residents are using the most. So right now, out of the four, which were Twitter, Skype, and Facebook, Facebook is definitely the one that's being used. So for the next month, I'm only going to be offering virtual office hours through Facebook, which is Trustee Omar Herrera. However, if you do want to schedule a Google Hangout or a Skype session, please let me know at herrera@villageofossining.org. And the third item, which I can't wait for it, is Stash to Trash is May 9th. I've been hearing a lot of feedback and constructive complaints. I don't call them just, complaints anymore because I expect action when someone actually complains now. Is if you have any area in the village where you feel the community should get together and clean up, it's a perfect day for us to really get out in all areas. It's co-sponsored by our village, our town, our Parks and Rec department. I already have a couple of areas where I'll be posting that I'll be with bags and gloves that definitely want to get down and dirty and pick up some garbage and maybe even do some weeding and partner up with some people who do that. So May 9th, stay tuned for details.
My yard.
I'll get back to you on that. And the last thing, which is pretty exciting, is Ossining Matters Mardi Gras Parade. Is going to be on Friday, May 1st at 5:15, and it's going to be a parade that's going to go around the high school, and viewing opportunities will be in front of the Ossining High School lawn on South Highland Avenue, and also throughout the M. Wilton parking lots as they go back to the football field. So that's Friday, May 1st. I encourage you to join them. And I don't have the date on me, but do you guys, the benefit
Is the next day.
Is the
on
next
Saturday,
day.
the 2nd, I believe, at 6:30 is
Great.
the concert up
At the high school?
Yes. Yeah, Jambalaya Brass Band. Yep.
great. Thank you.
Yes, Trustee Codman.
I wanted to, if you're not keen to go to a yard sale on the 2nd of May, there's a program that's presented by the Ossining Historic Cemeteries Conservancy. And one of the things that this group is doing is it's helping to really save, a lot of the historic headstones and things of that nature, scrub them down, kind of bring them back to life. And so on Saturday, May 2nd at 10 o'clock at the Dale Cemetery, 104 Havel Street, you can go and work with a group of folks that are really looking at really restoring a lot of the beautiful gravestones. There's so much history in both Dale Cemetery and in our Sparta Cemetery. And you can learn how it's done. I went to the last one last spring, and we took a headstone. You couldn't even see the letters on it. And by this very simple, gentle technique, the letters come to life. And a lot of these older headstones are quite descriptive of the people that are buried there, about their lives, about what was going on, and it's really quite dramatic. So if you want to have a historical drama right before your eyes, I certainly recommend that you check this out. So again, it's May 2nd, 10 a.m. at Dale Cemetery, 104 Havel Street. You can register by email at ohcc10562@gmail.com, or you can call 914-762-6136. And there will be a rain date on the 3rd as well. So thank you so much.
Sign up quickly. People are dying to get in.
Thanks, Bob.
I think you could probably do that and then go tag sale shopping afterwards. And
Well,
reward
that's it.
yourself for your good
You
work.
could definitely take in both. You can have a historical experience and then go out. Maybe there's some history on the streets you could buy. So you never know. So
Trustee Quesada, do you have anything to add to our
No,
very full calendars at this
I
point?
think you guys have covered everything that's going on
Okay.
for the next month, couple weeks actually.
What's
so.
the police department, the training that they're doing?
Oh, the civilian
Oh, sorry, I didn't, yeah,
police
the
academy.
Civilian Police Academy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm
Does
actually
anybody
doing
remember the
that.
date on that? Because that's a
Well, I know
that's a
that
pretty
one's
exciting
coming
thing.
out. How about I look it up and we'll
Okay.
tell them.
I
at
just
the end.
signed up.
Yeah.
All right, Manuel will update us later, but I know that the Ossining Police Department be on their website if you wanted to get the information, the details. Should I go on to Village Manager? You tell me.
Oh, I had one more thing. I'm sorry.
Okay, okay.
I just wanted to add to the success of Earth Day. This entire board was there.
Yes.
I saw everyone in different capacities, and I just want to give kudos to Susie Ross and the entire Green Ossining team. I mean, if you see where it has come from and where it's going, it's really exciting. So, thank you, team.
Yeah.
Oh, and a particular shout out to the guys who work in the parks, because they got that place set up and they got it cleaned up so quickly when you consider how many hundreds and hundreds of people were there. And the place was pristine at the end of the day. It, again, is a testament to how extraordinary the people who work for the town and village of Ossining. Our employees are the best that there are. And I want to say thank you again to everybody.
They did a great job. They really did. And it was over 2,000 attendees.
Did we get over 2,000?
That's the unofficial guesstimate.
Awesome. Gets bigger every year.
Yes.
Oh, I know what I want to mention about that before we go.
We have
We're never
some
going to do a
silly agenda
meeting.
we'll get to, but
But
go ahead, Trustee
all of the
Durayo.
bands played it on
Yes.
the bandstand. The entire sound and lighting system was solar powered. And it's extraordinary, because any of you who know anything about audio, it's very difficult to power audio and not get a hum, get a buzz, or any of the kinds of things if you don't have properly tuned electricity, as it were. And they've come up with a way to do this that there was no problem. The sound was perfect. It was pretty exciting. So they just keep finding more and more ways of doing more and more things in a way that shrinks the carbon footprint, saves money. It's very cool.
Cool. Thank you, Bob. Now that I kind of took a couple of minutes, now I find out actually, so the Ossining Police Department is actually hosting or doing a training for the Civilian Police Academy, and that is from 7 o'clock p.m. to 9 p.m. and that's on Thursday from May 7 to June 11.
So every Thursday for those
Yes,
weeks.
correct.
And the way that people,
And
Sign
actually, you have
up?
to be ages 16 and older. So I guess we all qualify for that. So I
Yeah.
guess.
I already signed,
I'm not sure we're
up.
the target audience, but
Did you
okay.
really say? Good.
So yeah, so
Oh, all right.
yeah, so it's gonna be a lot of fun, definitely. So
Great.
please sign up for that.
We have a very full agenda, so thank
We
you,
do.
Madam Manager.
Okay,
Move
we
us
have
forward.
a lot of good things on our agenda this evening. We're leading it off with the LED streetlight project, and we've invited Lumen Light Solutions back. They were here, as the board will remember, earlier. We've asked them to come back to follow up on some questions. Paul Fraioli, our village engineer, is really leading this project for the village. And joining him tonight is Heather Couple and Rob Craig from Lumen.
Thank you, Christina. Tonight, Heather is back, and this time she brought along Robert Craig from their office. We've been probably working now together. We met each other about a year ago following a PACE land seminar that was put on, and the primary focus was LED lighting and their successes down in Yonkers, which was their recent completed project at the time. So we were back and forth, and took us to what we presented back on March 11th, which was a very comprehensive presentation on how, via a quasi-design build, we can implement this LED lighting. And it is nice in the theme of Earth Day, but at the end of the day, it's really the right business decision. And we're going to get into a little more of those details. So, in the approximate month that's passed since the last presentation, I tell you a couple of things that I've done, a couple of the things that I've received from you all, and some public comments, and then we're going to allow Heather to address some of the revisions we made on the original proposal you saw, and then some of the technical questions that came my way that I'm not going to address now. I'm going to leave that to Rob. And I think at that point, I'll come back up and summarize where I'd like to go from here. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is hear from Heather, who's going to talk about the amended proposal, which incorporates some of the things that I wanted to have changed based on some of the questions and some of the things we found out when we did a little more in-depth study of the actual inventory that Con Ed has. Before they start to speak, I want to remind everybody that this was initially done with the town present because it was going to be something we done in conjunction with the town. We talked about the economies of scale at the time, and I want to make everybody rest assured that because the town has not officially decided yet whether they're going to join us, but the village hopefully will come to that conclusion this evening, that their unit prices have not changed, nor has there been any changes to any other cost component of our portion of the contract. So everything is status quo pertaining to that. So with that in mind, I want to start off with Heather Koffel, who's going to introduce the amended proposal.
It's going to be on this big screen behind my head?
No.
Nope.
I did not bring a PowerPoint.
Oh, that's
this
fine,
time.
that's fine.
That's okay.
This is going to be a very expedited summary of where we're at and where I'd like to go.
That's fine.
He told me to be quick or
No problem. I didn't know if I needed to move my
summary,
seat. That's
and
the only
we've
reason I was
got
asking.
Some Q&A that you guys have sent our way that we thought we'd address. So since
didn't plan
I was
that.
here in March, in talking with Paul, he was concerned that in the Con Ed database, they record streetlights, no matter what type of streetlight it is. And he's thinking that some of the Cobra heads are probably more decoratives, and the decoratives are, unit cost-wise, more costly because of the very historic decoratives that you have. The good news is that your decoratives are all Philips fixtures, so the retrofit cost is lower. And we incorporated into the proposal a higher quantity of those post tops that you have to allow for that cost differential, so that at the end of the day, you're not surprised if those numbers come up. At this point, we're comfortable that we're at a place where when we finish our field verification and inventory, that the quantities, if anything, of the Cobra heads and the post tops will come down slightly as opposed to go up, and therefore the price would come down from where it's at as opposed to go up. But just as a reminder, our proposal is for a full service turnkey operation. That means that we would come in, we would do an audit and a field verification. We would then sit with Paul and the DPW staff and whoever else you wanted, review a lighting plan. You could adjust lighting where streets may be less lit, better, you want them more lit, less lit, and adjust that in the course of the proposal, and incorporate that in our installation as we move forward with the installation. Also includes entering everything and reconciling into your Con Ed database, so that you realize all the changes that we're discussing. Includes if your database is incorrect in any manner, that it is corrected. There may be duplicate lights, there may be lights that are in your database that you don't have or never did have. And we will work with Con Ed to get all of that money refunded to you. They typically go back 6 years. Sometimes they'll go a little more, sometimes they'll go a little less, depending on the situations and the volume, but they have been very fair with that. So all of that's included. I know there are some vendors and proposers who cover different pieces and parts of this. The advantage, I think I discussed last time briefly, in having one entity do all of this is time. It saves you time. It will ultimately save you money, because you will not have piecemeal people doing things, and then, well, I'm coming on and assuming that this inventory is correct, and then it's not correct, and then there's differences in the quantities. So I think it leads to a better full-service approach for the municipality. The unit costs, again, are derived from a piggyback on the New Rochelle contract, which was competitively bid. It actually bid twice, just so you know. They bid it out once as a furnish with an install option, separately, the two, and then those numbers were out on the street, and it bid again as a furnish install combined with the option for the lease and finance. So as a result of that, the numbers that you're seeing are extremely competitive for the unit cost. And as Paul mentioned, the price for the village doesn't change based on whether or not the town is going along with you, because the village is moving forward first. The town hopefully will come on as either with you guys or shortly behind you guys, and that would affect their pricing if they do not follow on fairly shortly. For some of the technical aspects on the lighting, the color of lighting, and some of the dark sky compliance issues that Paul had emailed to us, I want to have Rob Craig, who is actually an electrician and does this work for a living, address you.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having us in this evening. Our concerns were some that we found in these reports that were documented by the IDA. And some of their concerns were, the really big ones I'd like to address are uplighting, glare, and blue lighting. First of all, let me explain, first of all, how fixtures are rated. There's a rating called a bug rating. That's BUG. B for backlighting, U for uplighting, and G for glare. So this is going to be important because this is a national standard that all LED and all luminaires use. Let me talk about uplighting. Uplighting, or dark sky compliance, is the light that goes above a fixture, which is considered to be light pollution and sky glare that you can really see from outer space. That's really detrimental stuff, and people do not want that anymore. So the uplight, these fixtures that we chose for this project and that New Rochelle chose on the project, they did an exhaustive search of fixtures, probably over a 4-year period, that they had many different manufacturers show their fixtures, and they specified the Philips fixture, which we will be using for you folks, because it really proves to be really one of the nicest fixtures on the market. When it comes to uplighting and dark sky compliance, the Philips fixture is 100% compliant with dark sky international uplighting requirements, eliminating all the sky glow and all that light noise. I'm going to go back to the bug rating. The U in bug rating is on a scale of U0 to U5. These fixtures have rated a U0, which is the best, which means the light that goes above the fixtures is practically none. So dark sky compliance, wonderful stuff. Okay. Number 2, I want to discuss glare. Glare from LEDs, possibly, or glare even from roadway lighting. All light sources produce glare, okay? The fixtures that are on the street now, and glare really is a great way to describe it. If you wear glasses and you're driving down the road and you look at a light source, you see a halo in your glasses, you see a halo on your windshield, that's glare. The glare rating for these LED fixtures on the bug scale is a 2 out of from a 0 to 5 rating. New York City Department of Transportation and New York State Department of Transportation, their standard for street lighting is a G2, which these are compliant with G2. The nice thing is, understand that the glare for LED fixtures is going to be better than any of the HID fixtures that any of the municipalities are going to have in the field currently. And one of the main reasons is because the LED fixture is flat. The fixtures that you have, the standard Cobra heads, have a lens that drops down. That lens produces a ton of glare. So if you go drive through like Yonkers, where there's a lot of them, I encourage you to look up and look through your glasses and notice that the halo is very, very small because the glare is less. which is going to be an improvement for people seeing things and seeing things on the street. The other thing that the report really discussed was blue lighting. And really when this was written, that's a really important thing, because the first generations of LED lighting, let me talk about lighting scale first. It's the colors. It's warm to neutral to cool, based on something that was referred to as Kelvin, which is temperature, right? Kelvin on, let's say, an incandescent light bulb in your home is about 2200 Kelvin. That's a very warm, yellow, orange light source. You move your way up to 5500 Kelvin, that's blue. In our heads, we think about blue lighting as Star Trek, beam me up, Scotty, and everything turns blue. The first LED fixtures, in order to be competitive, this was maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago when they first hit the market, people were putting these fixtures out on the market with 5500 Kelvin lighting, because they needed to have the fixture burn really efficiently to really make it even at all attractive. Well, they got a fixture on the market, but then you were experiencing a lot of blue light, and people were really turned off by blue lighting. There's some reports in here that they say that blue lighting causes some detrimental side effects. But understand that the lighting that we are giving you is 4,000 Kelvin. 4,000 Kelvin is neutral lighting. Neutral lighting. Let me go to HID lighting. HID lighting, high pressure sodium lighting, is about 2,200 Kelvin. Metal halide lighting is 4,000 Kelvin. Metal halide lighting is kind of really the standard that people wanted for lighting. It's a beautiful white light. It had pretty much neutral lighting, but the problem with it was it loves energy, and it takes a lot of energy to drive them to put out any kind of lighting. And they don't throw a lot of lights. So if you have other types of lighting, you'd have to put 2 lights in for every 1 light you could do with something else. So really, they're not incredibly cost effective. That's the lighting that people wanted. These LED lights are also 4,000 Kelvin, which is really the optimum lighting you want. It is that neutral lighting. It is when you're in the downtown and at night, you're not getting the high pressure sodium, everything's orange. Your shirt is blue, it's going to look gray. Your jacket is beige, it's going to look gray. Everything looks gray because orange kind of makes everything gray and black. This lighting is neutral, so blues will be blues and beiges will be beiges, reds will be reds, which is nice even as an aesthetic standard, because when you're going down the street and there's a brick building, a red brick building, you're going to be able to kind of enjoy that red brick at night and the green grass, and you can see the changes. So, and for safety concerns too, it's also better because it's better to identify what color car, what color someone was wearing. It's just safer, it's better. So it's really the optimum way to go with lighting. So we are not using any, and we've run into other competitive bids, and we will still see some of our competitors try to slip a 5,000 Kelvin fixture into municipality. And we obviously would warn any municipality against using a 5,000 Kelvin fixture. It's not the lighting you want. The lighting you want is 4,000 Kelvin. That's what we're giving. I think that's all I have.
Great.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more in-depth questions?
Yeah,
If I could just do
Go ahead.
one more recap there.
Sure.
So, recapping, what we're bringing tonight is, again, a turnkey approach. What you've seen maybe with some of your counterparts throughout the county is different approaches at how they're going to implement their LED program. Everything from we're going to buy the LEDs ourselves and put them up, but there's no real regard given to their potential Con Ed savings. They just want to say they have LED lights. You're going to have people that go to a vendor for an LED light, but it might not be everything Rob discussed, and then have someone else put them in, and then them themselves are going to go in and do the inventory corrections, which may or may not be possible based on the network they have to get into the Con Ed database and implement those savings. Or you can attack it like this. there's a track record here. There's a reviewed financing option by the manager's office, legal counsel, and the finance department, which is intact. And based on all that, assuming we get concurrence from the board tonight, which I'm hoping we do, we would like to be, this is a 5th Wednesday, right? So the next legislative session would be the 6th of May.
Okay.
I would ask for the resolution for the contract, whether that be with town and village is indifferent right now, but that's what we'd like to bring forth as a village contract for the authorization for Manager Papes to execute.
That timeline might make sense. I think we do have a couple more questions that we should probably
Yeah.
have addressed, but if Corporation Council thinks that, and Village Management think that's a reasonable timeline?
Sure.
Okay.
We'd love to get started with the project.
There was a mention of a revised proposal. So I have a proposal here that's
Yeah.
undated. So if you could get me the most
Yeah.
recent one with a date on it, so
yeah.
I know I'm looking at the right one. But I did review this one, which was undated.
Okay, and the revisions, we didn't get into it in too much
Thanks.
depth, but the revisions, there's going to be the potential for savings is in the inventory retroactive savings that hopefully we'll get by it's almost going to be seed money for this project, if you will. That's separate and distinct from the long-term repetitive savings you're going to get in your energy savings based on your reduction in your energy usage that they account for what we used to have versus what we will have with the LEDs. And there's also the potential for savings for reducing the wattages that we put in these certain bulbs. As they look at it, again, as a turnkey operation, they're going to look to give us their recommendations on how to not overlight an area, which will also mean savings. And all those non-repetitive long-term savings on our NYPA bill that are really going to pay for the bulk of the contract, those other savings are what we're going to use to really offset the inevitable contingency costs that you run into when you go to look at a light and you find out, well, that light actually doesn't have any power to it, so we're going to have to repair the power source, or we're going to have to repair the mast arm, or we're going to have to, add something here, and so that will give us the flexibility to do that. But yeah, I will get you that, and then that's really a proposal from a cost perspective, but then there's an actual contract that if we get concurrence tonight, the contract will be in your office to review, maybe even by the end of this week.
Trustee Codman?
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to hear your opinion of the materials that I would imagine that Paul provided to you that it had to do with IDA recommendations around, obviously Kelvin and spectrum of light and the effects it has on wildlife and things of that nature. I mean, what are your thoughts on the efficacy of the research and of the information that you read?
I believe that when some of the reporting, I believe there is a lot in here that was a significant problem. I think 5,500 Kelvin fixtures are deemed to be unacceptable, and I don't think municipalities should be using them, and I don't think it's a recommended light source that anyone. So I agree with a lot of those findings in here. I do believe, though, that the amount of blue lighting emitted by the fixtures are really insignificant based on the color temperature that was chosen for these projects that we're going to be using.
Okay. So you're saying that the fixtures are more around you said 4,000 Kelvin?
4,000 Kelvin, yes.
Okay. As opposed to
5,500 Kelvin,
which is significantly more. I can see that. I mean, part of the recommendations of the report is they were moving towards more of a warmer light in terms of kelvins and in terms of how the light comes out and everything else. I guess when you spoke to New Rochelle, did they have questions regarding this?
They did not. I believe they might have gotten a reporting on this, maybe even another quote regarding 5,500 Kelvin or 5,000 Kelvin fixtures, which they knew from their extensive research they had many, they have like a U-shaped street in New Rochelle that they've used as the testing ground, the proving grounds for LED light fixtures. And it's kind of the history of LED lights all throughout the street. Ours are on there as well. And they've tested them over the course of years to find out what works, what doesn't look good, and what looks good. And over their testing, with the specifications that we sent in and all the test reports that they sent in, that's why they chose Philips as one of their preferred vendors, because they knew the lighting source was really what they were looking for.
Well, I'm more thinking about, you know, were they aware of the kind of research that IDA is doing around
Absolutely.
wildlife issues and stuff like
Yes.
that? I mean, I just want to understand, you know, if we're the only people that are talking about this, or if this is the only time this has come up.
No.
You know,
No.
I mean, I would think that when you talked about New York State standards and where they are, and I would imagine that New York State would have some consciousness around this. And
New York City, especially,
Yeah.
the Department of the City of New York has a lot of people, a lot of wildlife people that have really, they've been researching this for a matter of years now. They've actually also put out contracts, and one of the things that was holding up those contracts was some of these issues regarding IDA reporting, regarding wildlife concerns and whatnot. And they, I believe it was last year, came to the conclusion that they also specified fixtures that were 4,000 Kelvin, and they, at that point, launched their initiative to do every borough, and they bid all the boroughs, all the 5 boroughs in New York City, after they've really satisfied themselves and all of the interests regarding these reports.
John, could you explain a little bit for the folks at home who didn't have the pleasure of
Oh,
reading that
right.
report, what these effects on wildlife
Yeah.
is? And
well, one of the issues is that when you talk about, well, certainly the light pollution certainly is part of it, and when you have this very powerful blue light into the sky, it can be very disruptive to migratory patterns for birds, even for insects. You know, I mean, it has a huge disruption because we're all living on a cycle where the sun comes up every day, and it has a certain amount of hours of light, and there's a certain amount of dark, and that changes obviously as the seasons change and everything else. So it's a real biological thing that's happening, and all of us, including human beings, we all live by that. And if you create a disruption in that, the consequences of that can be quite troubling. It could be a trouble to our individual biology. There are connections to these improper lights, even to cancer. I mean, so the science on this is complex, but it's pretty clear that people have made decisions that this very, very high-end 5,500 Kelvin light is not good.
Sure.
And so the reason I brought this information forward was because I thought we should be mindful of this, and that and obviously share that with you as somebody. I mean, we're all very excited about the notion of this project and getting it done, but we're only going to do this once, and I want to make sure that we're doing it right. I'd really be interested to see you mentioned the stuff in New York City. I didn't see that information. I found this information from other sources. You know, if you would share with me, maybe send something to the board or to me, I'd be very interested to see what happened in New York City.
Sure.
You know, just to understand the conclusions that they came to with regards to the environmental impact of LEDs.
Sure.
So.
It sounded like one of the concerns also from the material was particularly affecting the patterns of migrating birds, and that also has to do with shielding the light for the dark sky, which those numbers were actually very reassuring. They provided that it was virtually
It's the best rating for
Yes.
uplighting.
good.
0,
Yeah.
right?
0.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is the best rating. Which
We like that.
and that's not just LED fixtures that bug affects all lighting. And we really started to see that in about 2007. The dark sky compliance became very, very important because of, birds especially were really getting thrown off by the light, and insects and bats were really getting thrown off by that. And there was an initiative around that time that specifications on jobs that we saw really demanded dark sky compliance at that time. So we've been seeing dark sky compliance. Really, we don't put up fixtures anymore that are not dark sky compliant. And you know, it's the street lights. It was a street light that does not have a top on it, the decorative ones. It's like an acorn fixture, and I'm sure you've seen them everywhere. Those are the worst culprit of non-compliance to dark sky. And those were put up a ton in the 70s and 80s, and the lighting was terrible because you lose so much lighting above the fixture. It didn't make sense just for the sheer efficiency of the fixture itself, but they don't make those. And now when they make them and they have that aesthetic to them, there's a shield inside of it that drives all the light down. So all the manufacturers are on board with dark sky, and if they're not, they shouldn't be manufacturing lights.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just have so with respect to the decorative lights, I mean, I can see how, the street lights have the hood and everything else, and you talked about how the fixture is set way up into the hood of the fixture that's for the street lighting. But the decorative lights tend to be more open. So how is that going to get managed from a dark sky compliance perspective?
The decorative fixtures, the Philips fixtures that we are providing also have an excellent. They're totally compliant with Dark Sky International.
Okay.
And now their light source comes from. You have a fixture.
Sure.
It looks like it has a bulb here, and that can generate. These actually, the light source comes from the top of the fixture and shines down.
Oh, interesting.
So when you drive by your fixtures, it looks like it has a lamp that you can see.
Right.
That's fake. That's fake.
Shh.
The light source comes
Okay,
from
well,
above,
that's-
so the light is naturally pointing down.
Okay. Well,
now you
and
do
see,
get
that's so comforting to know
Yes.
that somebody has gone to the trouble of redesigning that. We still get the benefit of that
Absolutely.
fixture, which is
Absolutely.
which is
you get the aesthetic, which
Right.
is lovely. It looks like the old, really. You guys pick some very, very nice fixtures that you already have as your standard.
Paul's like, "Thank you."
It's supposed to meet like that old gas lamp look, which is really nice. You guys are ahead of a lot of other communities when you chose that, but it is going to be fully dark sky compliant.
Great. Don't
Thank
hurt
you.
yourself patting yourself on the back there, Paul.
You did a good job.
Any other trustees need to?
Yes. First and foremost, I am a big supporter of this project. I think that it's great that this board and previous boards have finally got to a stage and have spoken to all department heads and really seen what this will mean if we go forward with it. I just had I wanted to point out two things. Our decorative lighting does have a decent amount of I don't know how you want to call it, our cover space, right? Already, there's a big cover on them already. So when just in reference to uplighting, so kudos to Paul for that. And the other question I kind of had, and maybe it's just for me, but so you mentioned that in the finances you had that extra room to wiggle in case you see a lamp that's not for whatever reason doesn't have the electricity or it's just not there. Don't we normally budget for the maintenance of those light poles already?
We do, and I would not anticipate a budget reduction in year one. We would want to keep that money on the side as an additional built-in contingency to the contingency monies that I think we're going to build up with our retroactive reimbursement request after we do our inventory. However, there's whatever it was, 1,000 plus or minus lights out there, and we don't know what we're going to find on every light. Kenny does do a really good job upkeeping the ones we have. And the majority of our decorative lights really have gone in over the last 10 to 15 years. As an aside, that's why we were able to save a little money by having them just do instead of buying a whole new fixture, we're going to use the housing on a lot of them and just put in the actual the LED fixture, right? Retrofit. Thank you. That was the word couldn't get to me. But anyway, yeah. But we don't know what we're going to find in every light, so you don't want to, like for example, the train station lights. I know they're not in the inventory properly in Con Ed because we had the old. I don't even know what lights were down there because they were all gone when we went to replace them. But they were the old wood stanchions that had probably the sodium light down there. I guess. I mean, they were old, so I'm sure they're tremendously overbilled right now by Con Ed, and there was at least 20 of them down there. So that's where I look to build up the money on things that we don't know what exists, because there might be buried conduit somewhere, and there might be a light that was installed some time ago that doesn't have the appropriate footing to house this new pole and fixture. Your constituents might hit you up to say, you know what, they look great, but you do need an extra one over here at the end of the cul-de-sac. Can you put that in? We're going to need money to get power to that pole and coordinate with Con Ed to get us the necessary power to energize that light, whatever it may be. People might want to change things out, and the number you see is a number that we believe to be financeable in 7 years, and that's what you see. And it's all based on savings, unit cost, recurring savings. At the end of the day, we hope to build up money along with those savings to allow for things like that. And if we can't, or if the inventory is more accurate than any other muni in Westchester County, then we'll come back and we'll say, listen, we still want to continue, we want to do these extra things, but we need more money. But that is definitely not the plan, and definitely not what we foresee.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Do we need to say something?
No, but
I have another question, but go ahead, Trustee Quesada.
I think the other part, when our town supervisor was here, she mentioned about the parks and the lights in some of the parks, and I know at this time they're not with us. What about the community center? I mean, we do have light poles in there. Is that being taken into
Parking lots,
consideration?
you
The
mean?
parking
Parking
lots
lots.
itself?
Every light, unlike some utility components, every light that we put in that is not metered is done under the oversight of Con Ed, approving what we put in the ground before they actually come and energize them. So it's all in their database, one way or another. Unless that community center light, for example, the stanchion in the middle that we remove every year for Danny's helicopter, I mean, I believe that one, I don't know why I digressed into that, but but
Note to self.
that light, I believe, is energized off the building, which is metered. So that won't even be in the inventory. But that's a perfect example of, hey, you know what? We're in here doing this. We're addressing the inventory. We have the electrical engineer and the contractor to do it. Maybe we'll go in and change that fixture out to an LED fixture while we're here. How much does it cost? Well, it costs $350 for that fixture. It's not going to help us on our inventory, but it's going to drop Chris's energy bill for the building.
There you go.
So there'll be some offset somewhere along the way.
And I understand that the lights in the actual parks, like that light up the softball field for a night game or something,
Yeah,
that's probably not the same kind of fixture.
correct. That's a different animal. But you can put more efficient bulbs in there. You can have LED lighting.
Good.
That is something that she wanted to look into.
Yeah.
Is
But
that
that's
something
also
Is that
metered.
something that Lumen can help us with?
Yeah, we did talk about that.
Good.
And the town, if you look at their inventory and if you drive around the town, they have a very not that it's a bad thing, maybe it adds character, but it's a fractured inventory. You have a type of pole on this cul-de-sac, or a type of decorative on this cul-de-sac, and you drive a couple of cul-de-sacs over, and it's a totally different light. Some cul-de-sacs have no light, so that's a real unit price
There's no
work in
universal
progress.
fixture.
That's
Yeah,
That's
We're-
the
that's their issue.
yeah. But
We're a little
We have
more
enough for
uniform, yeah.
but we'll
But
get
some
there.
of the parks are village parks, like
Yeah.
Vance is one
Yeah.
of the lighting.
But
ones
the
that
majority of
lighting.
those lights are in the inventory. If they're
Okay.
coming off of the street into
Right.
a handhold that's powered through, underground utility that comes off of a pole that's not metered, they're in our inventory.
So that means all the lights in the parking lots of all the parks and
Right, the train station.
the municipal parking lots and
Yeah.
Great.
Right.
Manuel, did you have another question?
No, that was that actually addresses that.
I do have a question. Paul, I know we exchanged some emails about, and that's when I started becoming more aware of what this audit is that you're going to do in anticipation, and having the 6-year look back on once you have a clear picture on what our actual inventory is versus what Con Ed's been billing us for the last 6 years. And I understand these outside companies, if like you were talking about, having different agencies doing different pieces, and you guys are the whole picture. when the outside agencies present a proposal, and there was one particular company that came to my attention that presented with numbers, and I don't think it's necessarily appropriate to review contract numbers in the
Yeah.
public meeting, but I know that you've taken a look at them, and there's like, companies will come and do the work, they won't charge us anything, but then they'll keep a percentage of the savings, the refund that we get from Con Ed for the overpayment of the last 6 years.
Right.
Since we're working with Lumen Light Solutions for so much of this project, I totally understand the logic in having you do it soup to nuts. I just want to be sure that, Paul, you've reviewed the various approaches and that it's still comparable
It's
fiscally.
actually more-
fiscally
It's
comparable.
more beneficial for us, actually.
Oh, we like better.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Do we need to do
Thank you.
something?
Yes, I'd like to put this on the agenda for the next board meeting, for the board to move forward. And we thank Lumen for coming tonight, and Paul
Yeah, I mean,
for digging
I
into
guess
this.
the only thing I would like to see is I would like to see that information from New York City, and I'd like to, further understand, consensus in other communities, and that they've also, taken a look at this. I just, we're, like I said, we're only going to do this once, and I want to make sure that I'm comfortable with the science to the extent that I can understand it, and that would just be helpful for me. That's all.
I know that you've completed it in Yonkers, and you did the work there, and I know that you're contracted with New Rochelle. Is that job completed as well?
That job's just starting.
That job's just starting. Okay. Well, I can reach out to environmentally conscientious folks who are in decision-making positions in both of those municipalities, too, and get their input.
And we do have the extra week, so if you can get me those things.
What information we can find, I'm sure Phillips even has some information themselves.
They can't hear you on TV.
We'll also reach out to Phillips themselves, the parent company, because I'm sure they've done an extensive
Okay.
research on wildlife, and we'll ask them to assist us in this as well, and we'll give you everything we can get.
Okay.
So we're going to still
yeah.
try to target the meeting of the 6th, because I'd love to get this project up and running.
Yeah.
But hopefully we
Yes.
can get you all that information
Yeah.
before,
Yes.
and satisfy
Yes,
any
we're
concerns.
expecting that we're going to get great answers that reassure us.
Right.
That's what we're
So-
anticipating, but we need that reassurance.
We're going to move forward unless we find out that all the squirrels have just fallen out of the trees and died in Yonkers.
Okay.
Somewhere in between, yes.
Nice to the squirrels.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Heather.
Thank you very
Thank you very
much.
much.
Thank
Nice
you
to
very
meet you.
much.
Thank you.
Yep. And thanks to Trustee Codman for to kind of diving in some of the environmental and enlightening us and having this public discussion.
Yeah, good job.
It's a lot. I love it. All right, so our next item on the agenda
Check.
is Spring Street 2A. In downtown,
Make it up.
Manager of Downtown Economic Development, Ingrid Richards, here. This project started some time ago, and she's going to...
Thank you, Manager Papes. Good to.
Are you on the screen?
No, that's going to be my next topic.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. But I did submit a memo with your board materials for this topic, and I just want to read a couple of paragraphs, and then we will move on to Mr. Peter Rosillo from Mazer, who will give us more technical thoughts on this project for the board. So on Monday, August 4th, 2014, the village commenced a pilot project on Spring Street between Main and St. Paul's to convert Spring Street from a one-way to a two-way street. This pilot conversion provided an opportunity for village officials, residents of the community, and business owners to observe and examine this change in traffic circulation over a period of months. So, as you may remember, the concept of converting Spring Street from a one-way to a two-way street has been discussed in the village of Ossining as far back as the early to mid-90s. This concept has been mentioned in such documents as the Downtown Ossining Vision Plan, dated 1998, and the Comprehensive Plan, dated 2009. Today, the conversion has become a significant project to be completed under the Village of Ossining's Economic Development Strategic Objectives. Improving traffic circulation in the downtown area in this way is an essential component needed to allow our businesses on Spring Street to thrive, and has ultimately become a useful tool in attracting more businesses to the area. As a part of this change, the village relined portions of the road, installed new signs, removed 4 parking spaces on the west side of Spring Street between Main and Maple, removed 1 space on the east side of Spring Street, and implemented a suggested lower speed limit from 30 miles per hour to 20 miles per hour. The pilot project has operated about 8 months. As a result, we are in front of the Board of Trustees tonight to discuss the process of moving forward on permanent conversion. So now we have Peter from Mazer, who's going to discuss his proposal and go through all of the steps that we need to take to ultimately make this permanent. Also, we have a bit of secret that has to be done, and we have to pass a local law on this project as well. So, and we're hoping that multiple things will work simultaneously. Also, I have submitted with this document a cost estimate. And this is at the high end. I want to give the board the worst case scenario. We're hoping this is the worst case scenario. And but through the process, it gives the board an opportunity to look at, the layout, the cost. So this is not set in stone, but it's just giving you an idea of some of the elements we're looking at. We can take out some elements. We can, add some elements. And not only does this help with traffic circulation, it also assists in beautifying the downtown area, another one of our major objectives. So it ultimately hits 2. So I guess we will move on to Peter, and then Mr. Paul Fraioli, our village engineer, will give his thoughts on the cost estimate and how we're proceeding.
Good evening. My name is Pete Russillo. I'm with Mazer Consulting.
Good evening.
We had assisted the village in preparing the plans for the, I'll call it the interim improvement. And apparently it's working quite well, that they want to proceed with making it a permanent solution. And what we've done is we've prepared a proposal to develop the necessary plans to actually implement the permanent solution. And I'm assuming you all have a copy of the proposal. I'd just like to go through the stages that we would take to get this project underway and completed. Using the as a base, the interim plan that was put together, we would then augment that with some detailed survey. Now, in the proposal, we have under Phase 1 right-of-way and record plan topographic survey. There might be some savings here in terms of the cost if we don't have to actually establish the right-of-way along each of the roads. In other words, if the village has information that they could provide to us through mapping, that could reduce a lot of research on our surveyor's part, which would reduce some of the costs here. We would insist, though, however, on a topographic survey. That survey will identify gas valves, water valves, existing street lights, manholes, telephone banks, and so forth. As a lower portion of that portion under Phase 2 is the underground utility designation and markout. This we could also rely on. There will be a markout. I mean, the village will call for a markout. Our surveyor would call for a markout. But I have to tell you, and Bob Craig that was here a little bit will tell you also, because I know he's in this industry, they can mark it out, and you go to Augur, and there's a gas main right underneath where the gas main was marked out 6-8 feet away. Just today I got a call. We're doing a project up in Newburgh. They're augering. They hit a thrust block to a water main. And we actually were out in the field last week moving the initial design 2 feet to get away from where we understood the thrust block to be, and it was still there. We had to move it another 2 feet today. So unless you have this stuff identified, you risk, your whole design can basically have to start moving things around, which is not what you want to do. I would recommend doing the underground utility designation survey, and that may be very extensive. It depends on what's shown on the surface. If you only have a couple of gas valves and water valves, you can pretty much connect the dots. you have a good idea where the utility lies. But that I would recommend keeping in. It may not be as extensive as this. These are estimated fees. Again, we usually just do it on an hourly basis. So we would just charge for what it actually takes. The third phase is the preliminary plan preparation. Now, this section is the actual layout of the permanent solution, laying out the new curbs, identifying where the new curb and sidewalk ramps are to go, the basic lane assignments, the lane widths, the median widths. That's basic layout design. That we would submit on a disc to you as well as to the village in plan form, get comments on it. You may want to move a ramp one way or the other. You may want to adjust some lane widths a little bit. That gives you the opportunity to make changes that you think might be necessary, although what you're going to get is what we think professionally is the proper solution. Once we receive comments, we then go to the permanent and final plan preparation, which becomes a lot more detailed. Everything is at this point fixed. We know where everything is going to be. We then put a lot of detail together, the curb detail, curb installation detail, the pavement detail, what that pavement structure is actually going to be. You're going to have a detail for if there's curb terminations or different types of materials. You may have bricked area versus concrete area, the way you want maybe your streetscape to look. Those will all be detailed, and their installations will be, the way they're installed will be detailed. We will also have all the notes that will be in there, and we will also provide maintenance and protection of traffic, which is going to be an issue while this is under construction. So those will be part of those plans as well. And of course, there'll be just general notes to identify to the contractor his responsibilities during construction. The fifth phase is a traffic signal redesign. Now, this is a little bit, I believe, still up in the air. You could go with mast arm design, which is what you have at the intersection right now, or you could go with span wire. Span wire footings tend to be deeper. They tend to go down 11 feet. They're 3.5-foot diameter, and they're round. Mast arms are square. They're also about 3.5 feet by 3.5 feet, 30 inches to 36 inches. Occasionally 42. They don't go down quite as far. They go down about 9 feet. But because it's a rigid structure, mast arms, there's a limitation to how you can arrange the heads on them. The signs, if you have left turn lane signs, the only signs, or the no turn on red signs, they sort of limit where you can place that equipment. It also requires you to have a lot more conduit because all your wiring is going to be underground. And that can be more expensive. And I think in one of the estimates that we gave the differential between whether it's mast arm or span wire. Also, I believe there's a desire to have decorative poles here, which also tend to be a little bit more expensive than regular steel poles. So those are decisions though that we can make later. No matter which design you use, you're going to design the footing to the strength that it has to hold. Then you can later on say, okay, I want this type of decorative pole, and there's many different kinds. I want this particular color. That can come when you actually order the pole. That isn't something you need to have necessarily the color and the actual type of pole. If you just specify it's going to be decorative, the contractor knows that, and he knows he has to order a decorative pole, and his bid will reflect, the decorative pole. Landscaping plan. The landscaping will consist of, the streetscape, and this is something that will be produced, submitted to the village for comment. There may be opportunities for like rain gardens. Generally, they require a little bit more area, and we won't really know how much room there is to play with until you actually get out there and actually design it and see how much room you actually have. There'll be a whole schedule of plantings, those that are appropriate for streets, particularly in an urban area, that will be presented to you and for your comment, and of course we'll make adjustments as you deem fit. We'll produce, as under Phase 7, an engineer's estimate for this, which will include, all the work that's to be done, followed by assisting you in preparing bid documents, assuming this is going to go out to bid. And then once that's done, we'll support the village under the construction phase once the project is let. and then any meetings that are necessary. Those are usually billed on an hourly basis, and you don't know how many you're going to have. I mean, you'll have some during the design process, but once the contractor gets going, often there'll be a kickoff meeting, for example. If the village intends on resurfacing the entire area, you may have a pre-pave meeting at that point. So that encompasses it. Now, Ingrid mentioned to me the interest in schedule, and you should know that these signal poles take 12 to 14 weeks from order. So if you want to be done by November, let's say, these poles have to be ordered in the late July or early August. Okay, so
And what needs to happen before that time?
before that, you have to design them. And then before that, you have to, unless you want to order the poles yourself, okay, we could design them and you could order the poles and make some arrangement with the contractor. But normally the process is you put the design package together, you'll get since I think the higher portion of the work here is the signal work, if you go for a full replacement, he would probably, I imagine, sub out the curb work. You could do it the other way. You can get a general contractor that would then hire a signal guy as a subcontractor. You could do it either way. But either way you do it, you're going to have to get a bid in. You're going to have to review the bid. You're going to have to award the contract. The contractor is going to have to get a signal guy on hand. The plan will be designed. We'll be ready with the signal plan that, obviously before the bid. As soon as he gets that, he would then contact Union Metal or Valmont or whomever they choose. They would actually design the pole. The pole design would come to us. We would check it for compliance with all the necessary loadings. At that point, we would tell the contractor it's approved. He would then tell the manufacturer, okay, manufacture the pole. It's from that date that you have 12 to 14 weeks. Okay, so I had put a very quick schedule together, and it's very ambitious to get this done in that amount of time. I mean, we anticipate our actual design process for the signal and for the road work to be maybe 3 weeks, and that's really squeezing it. And then a review process for the village of a week, and then maybe another week and a half for us to respond to any comments you might have, or any additions or changes that you may want to have on the plan. So it's a very accelerated plan if you want to get this completed this year.
Questions? Or is there another phase? Should we do questions at this time, or?
So I wanted Mr. Fraioli to give his thoughts and comments on the project and the resources he has, and he has our cost estimate.
Thank you, Ingrid. So just to draw your attention on Ingrid's spreadsheet there, or Peter's spreadsheet there, to show the cost estimate. Basically, in rough numbers, their consulting service fee is approximately 10% of the estimated construction value, which is more or less market rate. It's actually a little bit less than 10, which makes it very competitive. And Mazer is highly considered the traffic engineer for the area. So that's why they're here. That's why they came in to help us in the beginning, and that's why they're here now. That said, I wanted to offer my endorsement into the work, including the signal, because I wanted to express my feelings on, first of all, not doing anything hasty to try to get it done this year. It worked last year on an interim basis. It can work next year. I don't know if you noticed, but the little candlestick designations for the islands that we knocked out and the snow knocked out after a very torrid winter are replaced now. So that's back intact, and we'll maintain that until next winter. But it can work again if it means not making any hasty decisions just to get the intersection done. And I don't want to kick ourselves for not taking advantage of what could be a really nice opportunity to take what is really the centerpiece of your downtown and putting time period pieces in there versus the galvanized stanchions that you have there now, and take advantage of the other things that we've done over the years, like the streetscape and the decorative posts that we referenced in our earlier presentation. And I think that would mean a lot, but that would mean the higher cost proposal. And that's something that I'm going to guess you guys aren't going to want to consider after just one review of maybe a 50% document phase. You're probably going to want to see it maybe a couple of times. So based on that, I appreciate Peter saying he's going to expedite it to fit as early as he can, but we would not want haste to make waste, and I do not anticipate consumer price index or construction indexes rather increasing that significantly over a 1 year time period that would skew this estimate to make the project not what it is being presented as today.
Does anybody else have questions?
Oh, I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Is this the appropriate time to ask questions? Okay. Are we? There's nothing going up on the screen. Are we going to do something? Because it's really
Yes.
hard for the public
Yes.
to see us when the screen
I
is
think
on.
Ingrid
Light
has-
bothering you.
I think the
Yeah.
next.
I keep
yeah.
thinking that there's a reason why we've got it on.
Yeah, I think the next item. The next
Is the
item.
blue light bothering you?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's on that blue light, yes. That's where it hurts.
Well, so Paul, what do you? I guess my question is are you? Deciding which way we go with this is a couple of budgets here, right? In terms of like the overall cost. I mean, I don't have any problem with the engineering part of that. I understand that that's part of what has to be done. You know, the larger question is are we going to invest in a new light, right? I mean, that's the difference between. There's that part of it, right? Whether we're going to spend that kind of money, and then the other part of it is the timing. And what I'm hear you saying is that we're not going to try to do this between now and next winter. That is that the timeline that you're seeing, or are we going to wait another year to, like maybe do it next spring kind of thing? I mean, what are we?
That's really what we're looking for from the board for tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say that I don't know, maybe I missed something, but I when I talk to people about the 2A Spring Street thing, I think there's still some things that we need to look at in terms of pedestrian traffic and what's happening there with that thing going two ways. And I mean, listen, change is hard for people; they're not used to it, and so I think there's still a little bit of discomfort. I think one of the things I've been hearing is that there's not there needs to be a second pedestrian crossing, in that space there between St. Paul and the end. I mean, that's one of the complaints that I've got is that obviously there's the crosswalk that's right there at the end of Spring Street, but there needs to be something like right where Maple comes and that exit from there. I mean, it'll be more traffic calming, but I think that it'll even slow the traffic down more. Now, people might complain about it, but a lot of people have complained to me that people still are going fast there, and I think we need more traffic calming there to make it more comfortable for pedestrians, and that's one concern that I have. So, based on, I don't know whether there's another phase here, but on the face of it, I like the idea of it being two-way, but I'm just wondering if we need to get some input from the public and even the merchants that people have businesses there. So
We can do that, and we can lower, by law, we have to lower the speed. We can lower the speed limit there so that it's enforceable, and we can write tickets. So all of those things can be done. We just need feedback from the board. If those are your thoughts, you want to lower the speed limit. We want to do that. We can do that. But as long as the board members can just tell us exactly, what have you been hearing from the public? It would be helpful. I know that there was an issue with a resident from Maple House. Yeah, and I know we discussed that crosswalk. And what I heard from Lieutenant Montague is that we want to ensure that everyone is safe. And when you create a crosswalk, we want to ensure that the pedestrian is safe, because once they see a crosswalk, they say, okay, it's safe to cross. But if a driver doesn't naturally stop, God forbid. So all those things have to be considered, thought about.
Yeah.
But you can definitely move forward, but, you know.
I do think that's a significant thing, and we've heard from multiple community members about the concerns of pedestrians crossing, and particularly because Maple House is a senior housing facility, which is right in the middle of that stretch where there isn't any crosswalk. And I also recall that Lieutenant Montague has made reference to the fact that having these mid-block crosswalks can itself be dangerous. And I know clearly that's not something that was in the original plan, so adding that consideration and any other measures that might be implemented to help make it a safe pedestrian crosswalk, I think is important to add into this, which I know we hadn't considered initially, and now that we've had the two-way in place, I know all heard some feedback from community members, both at public meetings and by email and other meetings.
Is the board all agreed that we need that crosswalk? Because I think we do.
We need pedestrian safety, so we're not traffic engineers, but we will. But it is a significant priority. So we want to know what are the ways.
What can we do to look
help
into
pedestrian safety in the crossing somewhere between the existing crosswalks?
Right.
Okay.
I have an issue. I've spoken to a bunch of the business owners, and with two-way traffic and both sides of the street parking, it's nigh on impossible for people to make any kind of deliveries whatsoever to the restaurants and the stores. Because if you double park a truck and there's parking on both sides, you've now put a cork in the bottle and nobody's going anywhere. And deliveries have to be made. Otherwise, there's not going to be any business. If I want Joe and Rosa to make me chicken, there's got to be chicken in the building.
Yes.
And
Paul would like to,
if you can't deliver the food, they can't cook it for me. So one of the things that has to happen, I think, is a really good look at whether we want to continue having parking on both sides of the street. In addition, if there's cars parked on both sides of the street, there's some fire apparatus that it ain't going to get through there without there being some metal-on-metal contact. And that's a big deal. We got a nice brand-new fire truck, and I don't think people parking on that road want to have nice red streaks on the sides of their cars.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm done.
Okay. The crosswalk is something that is not cost prohibitive, but we would want to do it in the analysis of it in conjunction with this project. We could add that to the scope, and I'm sure Peter can offer insight into that as we go along, and maybe we'll offer something as the documents start to be developed. I could tell you the initial response to some of the requests for that crosswalk, and the reason we didn't install one was because of not only the police mid-block crossing issue, but because you're crossing into a sidewalk that only takes you to the other crosswalk anyway, versus making the right and then the left, or the left and then the right, because you're taking it into a paper road which exists at the connection of the post office to Spring Street at that section with no sidewalks. So you don't want to really introduce people into traffic, which is essentially, but we can look at it. I don't want to try to design it now or answer it now, but it will be incorporated into this proposal.
I guess my feeling is this is something that's really important as a holistic part of the whole notion of it being two ways.
I get it.
And we've got, I like the idea of it. I want to see it work because I think it's really good for Spring Street, and it's really good for the people that are, going south. I just think that's important. So, I just think I want to stretch this out. I'm not in a hurry to get this thing done. I want to see a little bit more evolution. I want to see some more ideas. I want to see the traffic calming. I want to see safety for pedestrians. I want to figure out to make sure that people can get their food delivered, and there's got to be egress for emergency vehicles. So
let me one thing at a time, because you just said three things in one sentence.
Right.
The the crosswalk, because we have talked about it with Peter as an ongoing thing. He kind of anticipates incorporating at least the study of that,
Okay.
and possibly the incidental sketch that has to be incorporated into this existing scope. We don't want to turn his proposal to do the intersection over into a complete street traffic calming scope for the entire downtown, because that won't be $40,000. That'll be higher.
No,
So we have to keep things in perspective.
The truth, Paul, is that when we decided to make that little section two-way,
Yeah.
there's all these unintended consequences, okay?
Yeah, I get it.
I'm not suggesting that we do a complete streets for the downtown.
Yeah.
I'm saying that let's look at this section between St. Paul and Main Street, on Spring Street, and let's figure out what all the issues are, and let's
Yeah.
incorporate them. I'm willing to spend the extra money with the engineer, to sort that out and
And take our time doing it.
yeah, absolutely.
I get
I'm not
it.
in a hurry
Let's
here.
do this once and
Yeah.
not have to redo it.
I
Thank
get
you.
it. But in regard to the loading, when we first came, even with the initial plan, a couple of things that I didn't even know until we actually went out there and measured it. The width there is the same width. It's contiguous all the way down the Broad. So the two-way that you have in front of the police station is the same two-way issues that you have in front of the grill.
I agree.
So, you see the aesthetic when we pruned up the trees and opened everything up. All of a sudden it takes on that appearance of width. And I've been down there with FD and the police. We actually eliminated an extra spot because of the county bus that was having issue negotiating that thoroughfare. But the right turn from Monitor and the pass-through of Cataract have both been tested, to my knowledge, and have not been issue. They were a presumed issue as we went about this, but once it was implemented, both drivers have not, who I know, have said it's not an issue.
Okay.
The loading is an issue, which is an enforcement issue, but you see we have no loading signs and two-way signs up and down, with the anticipation that because of the proximity of Waller and help me out.
St. Paul's?
Maple Place.
Maple Place.
Yeah.
And the ability for a truck to park there and load, we didn't think it was going to be an issue, which is what they're doing now.
Yeah.
Which is what they're doing now.
Well, then,
We did get the complaints.
Well, and maybe that's the solution. Maybe we create a loading zone right on
Yeah.
the corner up Maple and take away a
that
couple
was
of parking
that was
spaces
the plan,
there.
but we didn't
Yeah.
want to do it until
Right.
Oh, yeah. Maybe we
You know,
can try
Well-
that.
Well, I guess I think people obviously are aware of all these issues. So
Yeah.
let's take our time. Let's take a look at all these things, and maybe you can come back to us. And I don't know what you feel about. I don't know how the board feels about going forward.
I think
with
that was the
plan.
premise of having Peter and the Mazer group come in, at a 30, a 50, and an 80% stage, because there's going to be things. One person's going to want an environmental component with the rain gardens at the intersection. One person's going to want elevated bump outs with flowers, and another person's going to want those things. They want maybe the spots reinstated across from Chase versus taken out. One person wants the spots taken away from in front of the cleaners versus taken out for loading. So that's what we're going to have to present and talk
Right.
about.
Yes,
But the main thing
a lot of
is
stuff.
the concept. So the concept is what we're designing, and he has meetings built into his proposal to come in and do exactly what we're doing now in a work session environment. Say, here's the plan. What do you think? And then we got to take it, step by step until everybody's contented, and then we put it to bid.
I'd like to talk about the street light for a minute. It's $175,000. Now, during the pilot project, we didn't change the street light.
Yeah.
Nobody died. There were no
That's a good
accidents.
standard.
Well, there were no accidents. There were no accidents. You start there. You start with, okay, nobody died. Now you go, how much property damage occurred? As far as I know, none. So the cars are coming and going, the people are coming and going, without spending $175,000 on a new light. How much does it cost to put up a sign, like a no turn on right, on red thing? How much are those? Are they a lot of money?
A sign?
Your sign. How much?
Probably $100.
Okay.
All in.
So let's save another $100 and not have a no turn on red sign there. So we can save $175,000, $175,000 plus $100, and we can use that for some of the other environmentally friendly things, and a couple of crosswalks, and life is better and better all the time.
Well, there is a it's not just the lights. Replacing the money that was presented as an estimate for the lights, and if I go off a little bit, Peter, you can correct me, is for the instrumentation, new underground wiring for that instrumentation, which is going to dig up the whole road, which has to be restored.
Yeah, let's not do that.
New decorative stanchions, and then new light heads themselves.
Yes. It's a lot of money. Let's not do any of that.
I'd like to ask the board to really thoroughly consider it, though, because we like to do jobs the right way. So, although it is an easy number to lop off the top, there is aesthetics of the downtown. There is safety of the downtown, and as we just heard earlier, they were just praising how much this board and previous boards have invested to maintain the character of the downtown, and just not go with the cheap,
For $175,000, I could have costume characters. I mean, we can have all the character we need for a lot less money.
We're not going to make a decision about
I'm
that
just
right
saying,
now.
I am not in favor of changing the stoplight for $175,000.
It's
Duly
more
noted.
than the stuff.
Duly noted. We can move on now.
Well, no, I still have some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A
Okay.
question,
So,
Mr. Heron.
well, no. I actually, I spoke to Ingrid when this whole pilot began, and the whole notion of it really makes a lot of sense. I mean, right now, if you came into the downtown, not in the past, when you came into the downtown and you weren't from Ossining, it'd be very hard for you to navigate around downtown. I mean, you would really have to know to go to St. Paul's or go to Academy and then work your way back to Main Street and then, of course, find Park. Yeah, it was a mess, right? So the whole notion of it being two-way, I totally understand, and I definitely support. However, whether I have not been, incorrectly in the way that I've been seeing stuff, but when it comes to buses, ambulances, big trucks, they usually have to wait. I mean, I take the bus in the morning to work, and the bus has to stop to let the cars go because they just don't fit. They just don't fit. And as you guys both said, the road does not get wider at all. So I know it's not a sexy topic, but I feel that in order for it to really work, you would have to remove the 4 spots to accommodate both lanes of traffic. I do, and please call me when you do so. I will ask the chiefs personally, and I will call a Beeline bus, or I'll wait till they, to see for myself, because I haven't seen it, that they could actually fit with parking on both sides, a car, a fire truck, ambulance, or pickup truck, or any, bigger vehicle. And then the other area, we have to remember that the only crosswalks that we have there, which should have been, addressed, I would say, before this, because we would still have this crosswalk issue now, even if we weren't doing the project, is Main and Spring by the Christmas tree, and then Broad and Spring, right? So you have 5 intersections in between with no crosswalks whatsoever, but we're increasing our residential mass, we're increasing our businesses, right? So you have a lot more pedestrian traffic going on there. Yeah, that's kind of the 3 points that I had. I am definitely in favor of keeping it that way, but I feel that that we really need to look into the whole pedestrian safety situation, how to address it presently right now, right? How to tie it into this project. And even though I do know that we're going to really go above and beyond if we put the Complete Streets into it, since we did adopt the Complete Streets policy, I would like to see the possibility of this going into phases. So, right, even if we do say, all right, we want a Complete Streets plan, of course we can't do it all at once, but maybe this could be the phase 1 of 6 in the Complete Streets, adopted program that we do for downtown, because that's really going into the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
I agree with
that's a lot of things that we do plan on incorporating, and we're going to take them into consideration, and that's what the meetings will be for. And I want to pull back a little bit, and as much as I appreciate the manager's endorsement there of the aesthetic, as that is a very, personally, that's a key component. The bigger cost of the new signalization and all the pedestrian instrumentation that has to go into these intersections to implement the new crosswalks and the timing that doesn't exist now, and the pedestrian heads to allow the crossing. All things that aren't there now that have to be, everything has to be new. And that's all a component of that 175. So if you don't have that, you're not going to be able to implement the instrumentation and the signalization for some of the pedestrian crossing we want to do.
I need a new street light to get a walk, don't walk sign down the block, is what you're saying?
No, but it's all
It's not that simple.
it's integrated.
Yeah.
It's integrated,
It's all together.
and I'm sure we will rest assured we're going to value engineer it as well.
Great.
And if we can, and we don't want a time period piece, maybe we will use the same mast arms that are there, but still put in new instrumentation with new heads. But that's really fodder for like the 30% meeting and the 50% meeting.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to take.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the project. I want it to work. It mind boggles me that the road doesn't get any wider, but my car's supposed to. Or it's just, I've tried it myself as a driver, as a pedestrian, in the fire truck, in the Beeline bus, not in an ambulance yet. And I've experienced it personally. So, and I'm not trying to be funny here, but it just makes no sense to me on how that is all supposed to happen. I mean, I'm still waiting to see, and I walk there every day, for a bus or a truck to be able to proceed with oncoming traffic. They usually have to stop. One or the other stop if you just stand there. And I understand that it's going to be a challenging topic because parking is an issue downtown, right? So, but it's something that I want to look into. And the other area is that I know that we can go into the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, but even if we weren't doing the two-way street, we would still be having to look into the pedestrian crossing and lack thereof and how people navigate down there. That's all.
Yep.
Thank you.
And to add to that, we had that same dialogue when it was internal, and I'm not going to say who was on what side of what fence, but we need parking down there.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at it from a technical perspective, it would be better not to have that parking. So, if that tells you who was on what side.
So was the recommendation to keep the parking spots in from the consultant or from?
The consultant concurred that you can run the test pilot program while maintaining the parking to see how it works out. And that's exactly what we're doing now.
Okay.
And you're getting exactly, we get the same thing. It works, but,
Well,
Okay.
Okay.
It's a tricky balance.
yeah.
I knew that beforehand, though.
Okay. Yes, you're right. It is a balance, and it takes time to get where we want to be. But this would be the first step, coming back to the board, having the board discuss with us how do we want to proceed, because we do ultimately want to get this done. Could be a year, could be 5 years, but we want to ensure. Not for me, I'm the 6-month lady. But, however, we want to ensure that everyone's comfortable with it, but we do want to move forward. So how do we move forward?
Hold on.
We still haven't
Oh, we haven't
finished
done
asking
it.
our
Finish.
questions.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Trustee Quesada.
All right. So you pretty much.
The fun is only halfway through.
So pretty much we heard, and that's the same concerns that I've been getting from other people. To addition to that, I think part of the equation is the main reason why we opened this up to a two-way, it was to help the businesses that were there to bring more people into them. Now, we need to get their feedback and see how did that affect them at all. So we want to make sure that all this, before we start doing this study, we need to go out there and start doing a survey of all these businesses and be like, talk to the dry cleaner, talk to the restaurant. How does that affect this whole thing? That's one. The other issue, not issue, but the other component to this whole two-way street is that we are doing an outreach to the public at the same time right now with the Mind Mixer in regards to the parking lots that we have downtown. And to answer that question, Bob, the $175,000, it was put in our budget last year. For this purpose, it was never used or anything like that, but it was like a whole keep running now. So now we have this whole project, and my understanding is by November hopefully we're gonna be putting an RFP for the sites, if that comes down to
You're
it.
talking about the Market
For
Square
Market
properties,
Square
that's the expectation at this point
so,
now.
So that's the component, or that's the idea, at least at this point. Now, in previous occasions, we have had developers do stuff for the village of Ossining. If we do hold on to this whole thing, why can we have at some point be part of the RFP? That should be a key component of what we want to see and how we're going to do this. So now we take some of this out, some of the money equation portion. Yeah, maybe I don't agree with John for what he said. He's willing to spend more money. I think I'm a little more conservative. Yeah, but it's still $43,000. Yes, so $43,000. I'm okay, I guess, to spend. But maybe the rest of it comes from a developer that wants to come into Ossining and provide us with all the stuff that we need. Like a light, like pedestrian, like a big parking lot somewhere in there. So that should be, maybe it's part of that whole thing. So I'm just, and that question is not for Paul, that is actually more to the board as a whole. So that's something I guess we have to look at, and we have to think about how do we want to approach this. Yes, we can definitely do the study for $43,000, but we're not in a rush, like Paul's mentioned. That could be part of the RFP that would be like, all right, here, Mr. Developer, that's what we did, that's what we came up. How can you help us out?
Can I ask my questions and comment? Oh, do you want to comment on that specifically, Valerie, village planner?
I think we have to keep in mind that, with a development, if you're asking that developer to create parking and to do traffic lights and to do potentially green buildings and affordable housing and whatever else, at some point the tipping point goes to the, right.
Yeah.
And especially since a lot of your feedback you're getting, people kind of want it to be within more or less into the zoning that's there now, so that even adds even
But we're going
more
to be
restraint.
asking, it's not we're going to be getting anything. A lot of the stuff, we said
Right.
they're probably going to come back and be like, right, that's not doable. And at the same time, you'd be like, you know what you're asking is not doable either. So it has to be, we're probably going to have to meet in between of the whole transition. That's what the RFP is all about.
Right, I
That's
just
what we're
think,
getting all the
your
feedback.
timelines, clearly
Yeah.
the timelines that they're talking about here might not necessarily merge with the timeline of an RFP and a development and actually, going through the environmental reviews and actually executing the development. So that's all I just wanted to
So
inform the board.
If let's just say, we right now said, let's go ahead with the study, we're going to give you the $43,000. How long does the study take to go from a 0% to 100%, or even to an 80% at that point? Does it take 2 months, 3 months, 6 months?
Again, I'll let him append what I'm going to say, but based on the broad breadth, that's going to be hard to commit to, because he can come in with his 30% drawings and he can get a change of direction. But if he proceeds with a defined scope,
Yeah.
with that in mind,
Yeah, the way we looked at it is, first you'd have to do the survey. So that's going to take 2 to 3 weeks to get the survey data done. We would begin preparing a base based on record information that you might have while that survey is going on, so we're not wasting any time. The plan preparation for the 30% stage, it's probably closer to 50%, because we do have this basic layout that's out there. We know where the limits are. We know what it sort of wants to look like permanently. Would probably be completed within 3 to 4 weeks. We could get that first submission to you. Okay, then it's up to you. Then you pick it apart. You decide what you want to do. I have here. I've only given you a week to do that, and that says, looking at this, I would start construction in the middle of July, if we were holding that construction timeline.
Yeah.
If we're not, we could take a lot more time, give it a lot more, just give it a lot more thought. This is what it seems like you're looking for, and stretch that out. The plan preparation we can proceed at a slower pace. Again, that 3 to 4 weeks, I'm talking about, everyone's on it to get it done in that amount of time. And I only put this together because the thought was maybe by the end of this year, and I backed it in from when the signal poles would be delivered. Now, if you're not going to put new poles up,
But
it changes.
we don't know yet.
Because no, I'm just saying, if you weren't, it would again change the schedule, because that really is the critical path, is how long you have to wait for those poles. From the time you order them to the time they're delivered is 12 to 14 weeks.
Let's take away that portion of the topic for now. Just 100% documents to go out for bid. Is it doable for you to accomplish between the time we decide to middle of November? let's say? Okay.
I actually had
before November.
bid
when
preparation in July.
We'll see.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
no, you
that's what
can
I'm saying.
do it,
So,
definitely
okay.
do.
Yeah,
Definitely.
so that's the point. I think that's the part that, going back to the board, that's the part that we should think. I'm not saying we should do it. I'm just saying that's a possibility for us to take in consideration of putting that part of the RFP when we send this out, whenever that will be.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's an option, but at this point, we don't even know what's going to go in that space or lack thereof. We don't even know if it's going to stay the same, right? We don't know if it's going to be a park. We don't know if it's going to be a residential building. We don't know. So I think it's an option. It's an option, but then I feel like then we're on the mercy of developers to kind of see. Even though I'm with you, we're going to try to squeeze out as much as we can, right? But yeah, it's a good option.
Okay. As much as I love the idea of not paying for this outright and having a way to negotiate it as part of a larger opportunity in the downtown, I am probably the person that pushed the most for you to have this very aggressive schedule, because I feel like we did this Spring Street two-way pilot a year ago, and it was intended to be up there for a short period of time. And now it's going to have been up there for a couple of years. And so I'm sorry that we didn't have this conversation a few months ago, so that it might have been more feasible for this to happen this year. But clearly, from the discussion tonight, for myriad reasons, it would be unwise to rush it to be at the end of this year. I am disappointed. That said, some of the priorities, when you move forward, you were saying that rain gardens, Peter, you were saying rain gardens require a certain amount of space. And it's not necessarily going to be feasible in all of the locations, but I would like that to be a priority. It's not only great for beautification, it's very helpful in stormwater runoff, and just a smart use of space, as much as is feasible in these as we look forward on these plans. And Village Planner Valerie Monastro, I think we are looking to get some CDBG money toward this. Am I correct, or am I not correct? No? There's not an opportunity for that? No, nothing. Okay. Paul Fraioli, Peter made mention of, would the whole, and it's not his decision, but I'm looking to you, would the entire intersection and all the connections be repaved as part of this process?
I think what we talked about putting into the scope, because of, depending on the instrumentation that you do or don't do, there'll be some cutting and digging and excavating in the street, particularly if there's rain gardens and ADA curbing. We all felt on this side over here that to get the most appropriate pedestrian visual with the painted crosswalks, the painted islands, or that would stand out the most versus how they stand out on concrete, you would do an overlay, a blacktop overlay over the concrete, and that would it looks nicer, and it also provides for a clearer, more distinguishable with your eye pedestrian crossings versus what you have now, particularly at night.
And phase one that is indicated here in the Mazur's report is the topographic survey, and I believe, Peter, you made reference to, is that something we may be able to provide and offer some savings? Is that something, Paul, that you can speak to?
We don't, it would be required. We don't have the level of data that he needs for a bid document. We had it for his pilot program from some of the overlay surveys we had and some of the things we put together with our village records. But for a bid document, you need a very detailed 2-foot contour / utility survey, the level of detail for bidding that does not exist now. But that's part and parcel with every project that I've brought forth to you.
Okay.
They all have that.
And in relation to what Trustee Quesada had suggested, which is, it looks like we are likely to have a very good handle on what the the plan might be by this fall, so we can revisit if
Yeah,
it
we'll
makes
get that plan.
sense at that time to incorporate into the potential for any future development, keeping in mind that whenever a developer comes in, we're going to have a really long wish list of things that we want to have as negotiating points, and this may be something that is a little more urgent than some of the other wish lists that might come along with a potential project there. So I'm not as optimistic as Trustee Quesada is of this being able to be incorporated into a development at Market Square, but that would be an appropriate time to revisit that consideration.
But
Trustee DeRayo?
we need the topographical survey regardless of anything else we do. So I think it would be a good idea to move forward with that for sure as soon as possible, because that information isn't going to change very much, right?
Well, the topographic survey is just phase one.
Yeah.
We're looking for several more phases before, in order to be able to make decisions,
Right,
correct?
well, that's why I'm suggesting, let's look at these phases and see how many of them we can commit to right now, so that these guys can move forward. So does everybody agree that phase one has to get done right away? You know, we have to do that to do anything else?
Is it that linear, Peter?
Yeah,
We're-
it is. It actually is. You really do need the survey. I mean, that's what you're building this whole thing on.
And do you then, is it the kind of thing that you need input from the board after phase one, or at that time, can it be done by the department heads if they feel that they have the information necessary to move forward with phases 2 and 3? And at what point would it be most appropriate to get direction from the board? Is it after every state, after every phase, or is it after?
No, I think after, once we produce the preliminary plan.
Which is
at-
after
at
phase
that
3.
point, After phase.
So we need to approve to go move forward phases 1 through 3 now. And then at that point, we regroup so that they can go to phase 4, which is the final plan prep. So this board has the time between now and then coming back to us with the preliminary plan to get our ducks in a row for them, for changes. Am I correct? That's the, so now we know what that looks like. We have to make a decision now.
That's correct. And I would add that if, in the process, we see something that we haven't discussed,
Then bring it to the board.
that affects the design, we would certainly come back at that
Yeah,
point.
we'll be here.
Right.
Yeah.
So, estimate of when we might be able to take a look at the first 3 phases and what's taken place?
I would say the survey, I have to check my survey group, see what their schedule is, but, yeah, they
We
tend to
won't-
be busy this time of year because the snow's gone now, so everybody's doing that. But I would say probably within 2 months,
There we go.
we would have
Wonderful.
that.
We look forward to
You'll
that.
be beholden to Con Ed to do the marking. The mark out
Yeah.
could take 2 months. I mean,
Just tell them you're
it's,
going to dig.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because we have another project that's been on hold for a couple of years because of Con Ed's mark out. And, you know, we're waiting and waiting.
Well, tell them we're going to dig a hole, and they better show up, because otherwise we're going to dig a hole.
So pretty much that's the conclusion of this board. We're gonna go move forward with the proposal that was presented to us in regards to the $43,000, but we're gonna start with phase 1, 2, and 3.
I
Which
think
is,
that's what we've agreed to so far, yeah.
that's 23,400.
Yeah.
How does that sound to
No,
Corporation Council
I
of
think
Village
it's a
Management?
complete proposal. Is
Yeah,
it?
it's a complete proposal.
Is
Yeah,
it à la
has to-
carte or?
You know, if you wanted to separate, that would be
Okay.
certainly agreeable.
Good, let's do that.
You can stop it anytime you want, just because you write a PO for 43,000,
Yeah.
and you want to stop at 23.
You say stop work,
We make payment as we go along.
Yeah.
At each phase.
Incremental.
So
Okay,
how
that's
is
fine.
if you don't mind, can we have Tom, now that we have him here? Sorry, Tom.
Hi, Tom.
Village Treasurer, Tom Warren.
Thank you.
Can we afford $24,000?
Yeah, do we have the money for this?
Well, 23,400, but
I hope so.
Hi,
Yeah.
Tom.
Good evening. There's no money in budget right now in the general fund for this. Presumably, this was going to be part of the overall bonded cost of the project. I can get our bond counsel to start with a resolution for the engineering phase, kind of like what we did with the Kilbrook, you know, and then as it develops into the construction phase, then we come back with another resolution when we have a better idea as to what the total cost is going to be.
Great.
But, you know, I don't think that I'd go to the bond council and ask for a $23,000 bond resolution.
Seems a little silly, right?
You know, I think I want to know what all the costs are like of the survey. You know, is the survey part of that?
Yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah.
yeah, the first 3.
So it will be the $43,000.
This is what you have to go to bond. for.
Yeah.
Well, the other part of it is, you know, we could take the first $23,000 out of contingency, and then if we decide to move forward, then we get bonded later. I mean, you know, how much is in contingency now?
A lot less than was last time.
Less every time we meet.
Yeah, I
really.
know. I'm just saying. I mean, I'm just.
$75.
It's probably somewhere around
That much?
$200,000.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
You know, right now, if you're only looking for $23,000, it's probably easiest to just do a resolution to take it from contingency.
Okay.
23 or 43?
What's 23,400? So yeah, 23.
Yes.
You're going to do the resolution for the entire proposal and then only authorize up to phase?
Purchase orders up to a
1, 2, 3?
certain
That's what I
amount.
thought.
That makes sense. So
Yeah.
the contract
Yes.
is complete as presented,
Yeah.
but we'll approve
phase.
the first chunk of money for
Yes.
the
The three
first
stages.
three
All right.
phases,
Well,
and
So
then
the
have to come back and do
resolution,
the rest.
the resolution will be to authorize accepting the proposal.
Right.
And
With a phased
with phased
implementation.
implementation, and then we'll authorize 3 phases in the resolution.
Correct.
And then we'll also have a finance resolution for the budget transfer.
Great.
But also in your packet was a proposed local law. If you're considering to make the changes permanent, you can proceed with the local law at a pace, a certain pace, because there's a certain amount of process, at least 30 to 45 days. That's lead time. It's going to be, you're going to need to hold your public hearing, so you could take your comments, your general comments from
Right.
the public, and we could encourage people to come and talk about that. Now, I can add the loading zone in a particular location, or wait. We
No,
can do
that's
that later. And we can add the reduced speed, so that will give your police the opportunity to start enforcing that 20 mile
That's a
per
good
hour
idea.
zone. So you can make the two-way permanent and the reduced speed permanent by local law, and you'll have to do a certain amount of secra involved with that, because there's a consideration, required. So you could start to proceed through the local law process, get your public hearing open, you can
Right.
hold it open, you don't have to proceed to vote, you know
Right.
what I'm saying?
We can hold it down, or we can always
You know,
get rid
and
of
you
it later.
you can revise a local law up to the point where you adopt it. So
Correct.
keeping in mind that based upon comments that come in, and
Which is where we want it. We want to get it ready to the point where the only thing we have to do is vote. So
Right.
get the public hearings out of the way, get all that stuff, all the ducks in a row. Because if we decide we're not going to do it, we just don't take a vote. It just goes away.
well,
And we have Lori Lee spend all this time
All
doing
this money.
paperwork.
well, no, I guess what I'm saying
police
is
do
if you're, if
Yeah.
you're, if your decision is to make the two-way permanent, regardless of the scope of the project you choose, then you can go about doing that now. You don't
Right.
have to wait until, but you absolutely could not award a bid
Until we do this.
until you change the law, because you'll need to go through the secret process before you can approve anything.
So start the process.
See, a design is just a concept, but once you're going to take action on that design, you'll need to have your secret done.
We won't be taking action until sometime in 2016, it sounds like. And what's the time frame for the law?
But you might
we
not be
wouldn't-
taking action, but in order to go to bid
Okay,
and
so that could happen
award a
later
bid
this year.
and go
Yes.
into a contract,
So, and the time frame for a local law is about 3 months from start to public hearings?
No, I would say 60 days, tops, yeah.
All right, so 2 months. All right.
We have time.
So the local law that you, as you presented it, does not speak to
The reduced
the
speed,
reduced
no,
speed?
or
The
the
speed limit
loading.
right now, I presume, is
Or the-
30, as
or-
it is in
or
most
the
parts of the
loading
village?
zone.
Yeah. So, I mean, we can put, and it also, I didn't have the actual measurements, because those will need to be taken in the field in order to make the 4 spaces you've already removed permanent. And then you can add more removal of parking at a later
Later,
date,
yeah.
once you've accepted a design. So if your thought is you want to make a two-way permanent and proceed to design down the line, you can make the two-way permanent by local law, reduce the speed by local law, and then you can start to enforce that reduced speed, which will address some of the concerns of the
There we
pedestrians.
go. Let's do that.
That's the question, though, right? Do we all want it to be a permanent
Right.
fix?
Yes.
That is the question. And
I would like it to
you
be
might want
permanent,
to take
too.
public comment by putting a proposed law out
Mm-hmm.
and see but it's completely up to you.
Well, that's why you have the public hearing about the local law. That's where you get that information.
So is it reasonable for us to make the announcement for the public hearing at our next, well, what is it, in 2 weeks?
Whenever-
I know the
whenever
public
you-
hearing
whenever you're
can't
ready.
happen. We
You'll
need,
have to pass a resolution calling for a public hearing
so
at a future
that's
date.
what we can do at our
can
next
do that.
legislative
You-
session?
You
is
could,
to-
Yes.
okay.
you could, and I could get a revised draft out to
There
you
you go.
with the actual distances and with the reduced speed, which is not in here.
So just for I'm clear and for the public that's watching and going to watch,
Yeah.
can I speak for the board that we all want to make this a permanent fix?
I don't think there's been discussion against that at this
Okay.
point, despite.
I just wanted to make that clear.
Keeping in mind many of the concerns that have been raised about
mind.
pedestrian safety and
Right.
loading and, yes.
And pending public comment, you know, if the entire village
Mm-hmm.
shows up with pitchforks and torches, we might revisit.
You can open, you can open the public hearing, take that public comment, it might assist you with making the decision.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Looking
Thank
forward to
you, Mayor
Thank you.
and
Thank
board
you very
members,
Thank
for
you.
your support
Yeah.
with this project. We appreciate it. Thank you.
that. And thank you very much.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the former DPW site. The board indicated that they'd like to table this for this evening.
Correct.
Okay. And then we have a status update from our manager of downtown economic development, Ingrid Richard. Sure.
Let me
So she's
let's
gonna
get
use
out of the
this
way.
now.
We are going to move our seats now.
Be the lighting guy. Sorry, I didn't mean to just tell you. Thank you. I should have asked you if you would like to. Oh God, there's that blue light again. Oh my God, the birds are falling out of the sky. Ah! Is that a dead squirrel? You're still. You should come to all full fate. Squirrel.
So this is just a quick update to the board.
Later.
But you can put the mouse on the, oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh,
The mouse is wireless.
Does
There
the
you
blue
go.
light affect the mouse?
Never mind, never mind.
okay.
Do not engage.
Okay. Since I guess this meeting is running.
Just normal.
No slideshow, right?
Normal is just a drier setting.
Okay. So it's just our progress report, just to keep the Board of Trustees updated on the initiatives of the Office of Downtown Economic Development, and to have any discussions that the board wants to have as we continue to move forward. So we're just going to go through the strategic objectives, which we are all aware of. Increase the buying power through development, TODs, beautification of the downtown historic district and retail corridors, and improve traffic pedestrian circulation of our downtown area. So any of the projects that my office works on is really related to one of these three topics. So it's just a way to focus the office and so that the public and the board understands, you know, my position on all of these elements and how we continue to move forward and how we can achieve all of these different
Just a
things.
quick question, excuse
Yes.
me. What's a TOD?
Transit-oriented development?
Okay, just making sure. Thank you.
Sorry. I had that written out, but I took it out.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're all aware of many of our development activities, and we have been fairly successful with a number of our developments. And we look to complete some of the ones that are currently in the process. So the Avalon, we know, is done. Stag is done. Harbor Square, many of you know, it's in the process of being constructed. And we have village-owned properties, old DPW site, Market Square. So those are the major projects that we look to assist us in helping buying power, et cetera.
What about Hudson Step?
Now Hudson Step, that's another major project, and you know, that project has been back and forth. I hear that it's going to move forward very soon. Yeah.
It's completed, and they're putting together their construction drawings at this point. So they anticipate submitting it for a building permit within 6 months.
So that is going to be forthcoming.
Not to belabor, but the Elks Club?
Yeah, that's 25 units, and we know that it's been demolished and
Village manager.
So the building permit.
Speak into the mic.
Yeah, okay. So it's 25 units of market senior housing with the 10%, or actually 15% affordable component, and the building permit, I believe, is going to be issued within the next few days. So they've already have a demo permit, and the building permit is pretty much complete at this point.
Now, I did not have that on my list because it just recently became market rate housing, and we didn't know if it was going to move forward. So, but now a lot of these things are moving through the process because financially, you know, it's just a better time for construction. So we do consider those, and it looks like it is moving forward. We had a number of, since I've seen you last, we did have obviously our Main Street Summit in 2014. We hosted a NYSERDA event with the Chamber, and we have an Ossining Downtown Events Committee. We did a Chalk It Up Festival, and we had yoga in downtown Ossining, and we seek to do a lot more with that committee, but probably 2 more additional major events, and then maybe smaller events. If a business wants to do an event in Market Square, we would, you know, support it and help them advertise for it. We also do a fair amount of marketing for Ossining. A number of the businesses came to me and said that, you know, we should really put out some nice marketing for the Village of Ossining, let people know what's happening here so we can start attracting people. So we did do that. We had an advertorial 2014-2015 in the Westchester County Business Journal, and also we do some advertising in the Brooklyn Eagle because a number of people have said that, you know, we want people, you know, from Brooklyn who have been priced out of the market, because Brooklyn, a lot of people have been priced out of the market there, to come to Ossining, see what's happening, and we are making an effort to get information out about Ossining.
It's okay. It's fine.
That was just a picture of the advertorial that we put in 2015.
Do we have like a marketing plan and like a target audience about who we're trying to market to and why?
Well, I mean, we do try to market to the young professionals, the empty nesters. We want to get to that demographic. We believe that the Brooklyn Eagle helps us do that. Westchester County Business Journal, they have huge, you know, readership, and also we believe that we can attract that market. We also can attract the market based upon the types of units that we want, you know, one family, high end, to ensure that, you know, the number of families are not increased. So we do, and we know that that's the demographic that's looking for spaces, so we want to ensure that we can, you know, attract that demographic specifically.
Does your office work with our PR firm?
Yes.
Okay.
Very closely. So we've had a number of investments. The gum removal machine, we had the Parks Department is in charge of cleaning up the gum, because when I first came here, a lot of the businesses and residents who live downtown wanted us to make an effort to just cleaning up the sidewalks. So
Still do.
we we feel that it was a good investment of our funds, and the general fund paid for half, and the downtown fund paid for half, so that, the village also can have the opportunity to use it when they need to as well in other locations. Commercial property owners, of course, continue to upgrade their facades. We seek for them to do more. As you know, the planning department applied for a number of grants to fix up the facades, and unfortunately, we didn't get those funds, so we asked a bank probably about a year ago to give us a low-interest rate for businesses who'd like to fix up their facades. We can do that again. We think that maybe not some of the businesses look at it and say, oh, well, I can, get financing here for lower, or maybe they don't want to do anything, but we like to give them the option that, we are invested and we want to see them, continue to fix up their facades in the downtown. A number of businesses have moved in and invested in renovations. We all know the dental office on Main Street, that was the Modern Modes, Castillo Meat Market, Charabella's Closet, Foundry Fitness on Spring Street, which is a great exercise place, and they've been able to collaborate with other businesses so that other businesses like Zumba and Liz Fitness can use their space. And Chow's Chicken just recently opened on Lower Main Street, where Ponda River was located.
Ponda River used to be there at the very end of Lower Main, right by the train station parking lot.
Might be Shirley's.
What used to be there?
Ponda River.
Ponda Riva, the Jamaican.
The Jamaican place.
Yeah, and now it's
River,
Chow's
right.
Chicken. Yep.
Very nice.
On that, do we have an official date for Theater O? Because I know she's signing folks up for her camp.
Yes,
so
I know.
She's very optimistic, but
Very.
okay. All right, good.
But yes, we're also welcoming new businesses. Theater O, I don't want to forget them, and there appears to be someone who has rented out AJ's Fish Fry, and they're working through the process. So we're very excited about them.
Oh, no, nothing
okay.
negative, don't worry. I just wanted to ask you, I saw the coming soon sign. I know that I saw the sign for now over a year, but the old is Isabella's next to Ray's Deli.
Mm-hmm. Well, the property owner is working with that tenant to make the renovations, and I don't know how fast that is going, but he's still working through the process.
I just got excited because after a year, I see a new sign that they're coming soon. So
yes.
Hopefully soon.
I really don't announce a lot of the new
potential, okay.
new businesses, just because you want to give them some time to get through the process. So we don't want to say, okay, they're coming, and then it takes 2 months for them to open up, or So, sorry, go ahead.
What is the status of the dental office?
The status of the dental office, she is there. She has customers, and she is going to make changes. Obviously, she has an
windows
issue
are
with
fixed.
her window.
Mm-hmm.
She says it's a special order window, and that she will definitely, it's going to look beautiful once it's done, but she's happy in Ossining, and she has customers, and she is servicing, the needs of the community. She does root canals. She does very extensive dental work, not just cleanings. It goes beyond, her expertise is beyond that.
Okay, thank you.
And and there are some businesses like AJ's Fish Fry that didn't make it, and that can naturally happen. Some of the people that are opening up businesses are new, and they're working out. It's a lot of work to open up a new business and to be there all the time and to market, etc. So we look to meet them and talk to them and assist them through the process and then assist them through any issues that they are having. But obviously, you know, as they move through the process of having a business, they have to determine if, you know, it's really for them to continue on. Traffic pedestrian circulation, we just spoke about Spring Street, one-way, two-way, so we're moving forward with that. And now I've understood another project that we wanted to work on in under economic development was the Route 9, Croton Avenue, and the connection to Main Street for pedestrians, which it's extremely important, and I know that now it's taken on a village-wide. The planning department is spearheading that particular project. But obviously, I'm interested in seeing what happens with that, and if I'm needed for any reason, I'm sure the planner will contact me, and I'm happy to see that it is definitely moving forward.
Thank you.
So future projects, as you know, we've distributed the 200 Main Street RFP, which is due May 15th. We've had, you know, we've worked to reach out to a lot of entities, organizations that we think may be interested. Historic preservation entities. We contacted New York State Historic Preservation, all of the places where we believe that they would know construction people who would be interested in preserving a historic building. We also reached out to our stakeholders in the community, and the chair of the Historic Preservation Committee is here, Joanne Toll, and she helped out. She helped us with a list so that we could get the information out. So it really was a collaborative effort, and very thankful for all the people who gave me ideas of entities we could send it to. Potentially identified developer for old DPW site. We want to distribute an updated business catalog, probably summer, fall of 2015. Downtown Events Committee, we are in the process of still discussing a couple of events that we want to hold, and are in the process of working on a new event, which takes a little bit of time, and making Spring Street a permanent change. And obviously with Route 9, the planning department is working on that, and I'll be closely monitoring that to see how we proceed. So any comments or questions? I just want to hand out just one thing. This is a New York State Real Estate Journal. We got a little snippet in there about our RFP, so we hope to get to the New York real estate market by doing that. And this is just the advertorial.
Can we turn off the screen?
Done on the screen?
And maybe hit the light, our light man.
Oh, no, this one. Other one.
That one,
Yep.
Yeah, that one with Wait.
No,
that was up
the
there.
bottom one, I guess.
There
There we go.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Does the board have any questions with regard to Ms. Richards' proposal?
I do, but I can let other trustees go first if there's any other comments or questions for our Downtown Economic Development Manager.
I'm okay, thank you.
Sure, Trustee Codman.
Yeah. The new Arts Committee has had a couple of really strong meetings, and I know that one of the things that they're sort of stirring up for an idea is to do an event in the downtown. and it would be great if somebody from the Downtown Events Committee came to one of our meetings, or at least reached out to the chair. One of the things that's happening as part of the collective energy of the group is to take an inventory of all the different groups that are doing any types of activities, artistic and otherwise, in the village, so we can start to get to understand all the different folks that are doing things. Part of the things that have happened, or one of the things that's been observed from the committee, is that things are kind of siloed, that people are all individually are doing events, and nobody's collaborating together to use the combined synergy of all that energy and all those contacts. So it'd be great if somebody from the downtown committee could contact Henry, the chair. I can give you his information. So,
Okay.
But I think that'd be great. I'm glad you're working on a big event downtown, and this group could be very helpful in driving, really driving just people knowing about it, So.
Okay.
Actually, one of the notes that I have is related, so I'll just jump in, if I may. The school district invited a lot of entities, including representatives from the village and the chamber and the town, to a meeting a few months earlier this, I guess it was the end of last year, to create a community calendar. And I don't know that we have, I was just talking to somebody the other day, I don't think we've actually linked it on the village board website. I've filled in some of the information, like all of our meetings and big events that I knew about. So that might be a resource that other entities are already putting information into, like, Ossining Matters events are on there, and the school shows and stuff are on there, and the village and town meetings are on there. And, we always talk about having a calendar. There is this calendar that's started. It might not be the end-all, be-all for communication, but it's a good starting point. So right now, just from the Ossining School District website, you can see it, but it is a community calendar. And if, Ingrid, if you don't yet have access to be able to get on, you can get on very easily. It's like a Google Calendar thing. And that would be something maybe we want to link on our website, and that also you would be a key person that might want to be able to add events and also be mindful of what other entities have put on the calendar when scheduling events, so that whenever possible we don't triple book us, the community members. And Ingrid, also you mentioned, while I have the floor, and then I'll certainly entertain questions from other board members. You mentioned beautification of the downtown as part of your purview, one of the things you're working on. I happened to get an email today from a resident who said, among other things, I would love to get involved and lend a hand. Can you give me the contact information of the person who manages these types of beautification initiatives for downtown? I work full-time, but I am willing to roll up my sleeves and help out. Now, we have so many wonderful committees of dedicated community members, and I just wasn't sure who to recommend to reach out to. Would you be an appropriate person for me to connect her with?
Or recreation, I think, as well, right? You work hand in hand with the recreation. They really head up the beautification committee.
Well,
right?
There's not really a committee, but what we do is I'll take Paul with me. We'll do a walk, and Henry at the time, and Chris. We do a walk, and we determine the types of things that we want to do. If we want to change furnishings, how we want to do plantings. We did plantings in the tree wells. We did change furnishings in 2012, meaning the benches and the garbage cans and the recycle cans. So all of those things, we do collaboratively.
With the village department employees. Right. Okay, because there have been discussions, and I know that Trustee Durayo has had discussions with community members about specific pockets in more the residential neighborhoods, is what you're specifically talking about. But it brought up the wider question, and Green Ossining entertained the potential for being integrally involved in having community volunteers help with the beautification. And is that something that you've ever explored? Is that something that might make sense, or do you feel that it would be in conflict with the village department efforts by the employees?
I remember the Rotary did plantings in front of 200 Main, and we did in 2012. We put out a flyer asking the businesses to come out, help plant flowers, and some did, but it really not many wanted to do it. So then we went to the rec department and asked them to, do the plantings and the tree wells. But of course, if there are volunteers who want to assist us and give us ideas and thoughts, we'd be more than willing to listen to them and implement them.
You want to comment on that, Trustee Herrera?
I do. That's something, it's great to be able to do small projects that people notice, right? Unfortunately, we can't do our main fantastic streetscape project for, Spring and Main immediately, but this is areas where we can, right? So an area that I feel is definitely an ongoing challenge for us, but we are getting better at, is the maintenance of our village, right? Especially downtown. As a resident, see it every day. So we are getting better at it, but when it comes to just the maintenance of our trees, our garbage, our illegal dumping in public trash bins that we're addressing, right? The homeless issue at times, right? There's a lot of issues that are being addressed and will be addressed, as we go. But when it comes to beautification specifically, I think that if the board's okay, and if you are okay with it, I would like to invite all interested parties and residents to kind of meet with yourself and Chris and Christina and anyone else on the board to kind of get an action plan going for we could launch our summer season this June. And really make a noticeable difference when it comes to downtown. That when June comes, they're like, wow, they're really going an extra step this year. I could really notice it,
Okay, and with garbage, we can also put out a notice. We've done that in the past to our property owners, and noting that, and they will be fined if it's found that residents are dumping garbage on our main street. We've done that before. It's all due to the level of enforcement you want to put down in downtown Ossining. Now, if the board is willing to give us additional resources for a walking tour of the police department dedicated to doing that, so that we can, we do have some issues that we can deal with, and also maybe look at what the building department can do with regard to the area. I mean, there are resources that we have available as village government to truly deal with some of those issues.
I agree.
If that's the way we want to.
It's these walks that you've taken in the past with some of the key department heads. If you're going to perhaps combining that concept with Trustee Herrera's suggestion, if you're going to do a walk now that it is spring and things are growing again and not covered in snow anymore, perhaps that would be, this year there might be an opportunity to invite some community members like this individual who reached out, or folks from Green Ossining, or some of the other folks that Trustee Durayo and Trustee Quesada may have met last year, who were interested in doing some more community, plantings and gardens and maintenance that feel strongly that they'd like to contribute to the beautification. Would it be appropriate to have a walking tour and meeting of that sort?
Absolutely.
And maybe identify one or two projects that are very tangible that we can combine these resources to make happen before the village fair, perhaps on June 13th.
Yes,
Is that a big date you have in mind?
Yeah. That's the big date that everyone gets ready for, that we all get. Quick question for Paul. Do we, when it comes to like our parking meters, our lighting fixtures, do we paint them? Do we update them? Do we, some are scratched, some have graffiti on them, some, is that part of our maintenance project? I know it's very small and specific, but it's very noticeable.
We replace broken ones and we fix them. It's an ongoing process reported by the police department.
Paint them?
If they're, I'm just concerned if I guess you can touch them up, but I don't know.
We can, and we have, and usually if there's something that's obvious, we'll address it without being solicited to do so. But
Cool.
if there's things that you see, you can just pass it along, and I'm sure we'll get passed to us and address it.
Great.
If I may ask, I know that the high school requires all the students to do community service. If we could interface with Mr. Sanchez at the high school, and maybe we can get some kids that are short a project to work with you and Paul on some of these beautification projects. Also, the Boy Scouts. I know that they're constantly looking for Eagle Scout projects. Now, I grant you planting a garden's probably not what they're looking for, but there might...
I don't know about that. They did that whole thing up at the Scout project that they did at Krabucky. They installed this huge bird feeder that's
Well, there you go.
remarkable. So,
Something larger than just planting a garden.
Yeah.
It may be, for example, there might be the hillside down that belongs to the village where the wall is that we cut all the trees down last year. Maybe that would be a project that would be a great thing for the Scouts to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what he means, yeah.
Yeah, work
Between
with you on that, because I know you're not nearly busy enough. You should be, supervising a whole bunch of community projects with kids.
But
What's better than that?
But if we do want
Trustee
to move forward with trying to make this effort, can I suggest that perhaps Trustee Herrera touch base with Ingrid, and together you can identify what would be the community groups that should be invited to participate, select a date that works for the department heads internally, and then set aside an hour and a half sometime during the week that makes sense, and see if there might be some tangible projects that could happen in a relatively short
Sounds
period
good.
of time.
Okay.
Are you comfortable with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Village Manager Christina Pace, does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense. I'm available for that. Okay,
I
so,
was actually, sorry,
Oh,
Chris.
I'm sorry.
I was actually going to ask the mayor if, I know there was 2 interviews that was done in regards to the downtown committee. Is that being implemented? Are they being part of that committee yet? And when is the next meeting for that committee to take place?
I was asked not to have a meeting until the new members were put in place. So that's why we haven't had a meeting.
Okay, yeah.
We had a meeting in December of 2014
Yeah, I
to
remember
discuss,
that.
to discuss, so.
Is that something that requires more than just passing of a resolution? Okay, so theoretically, that could happen in 2
Okay.
weeks.
Okay.
You were going to assign.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. yeah.
okay. Right.
That would be great.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's it.
Anything else?
No.
No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Mayor
you.
and
Coming.
board members. Appreciate it.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night.
Thanks,
too.
Ingrid.
thank you.
Yes. Good
Okay,
night.
the next item on the agenda is a certiorari claim. Tom, do you want to speak to the board about? We get
Certiorari
another
time.
certiorari.
More?
Exciting.
One more.
Not Tom, not tonight.
Certiorari time.
I'll keep it very short. Good evening. I've requested that a tax certiorari claim that's been received by the village for the Verizon property on Main Street for $54,221 be adopted at the next legislative meeting so that we can keep to the 60-day payment deadline. And with that, that brings the 4 tax certiorari claims paid so far this year to about $290,000. As part of the audit, the auditors asked us to update the list of outstanding claims probable for the balance of the 2015 year. So we worked with the assessor on that, and it looks like that there's 13 additional claims totaling about $287,000 for the balance of the year. And we had some money left over from last year, so we're looking for a bond resolution for $550,000 at the next
550,
$550,000 at the next legislative meeting to pay for the tax certiorari claims for this year.
And there we go. We don't get a choice. This is stuff we have to do.
Yeah.
We have to pay the certiorari claims, so.
So do we want to go more than $43,000?
So,
Just saying. Okay, I guess.
all right, thank
Okay,
you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
The
you very
ne-
much.
The next item we have on the agenda is the capital projects report. I'd actually, in the interest of time, it's here, there's detail on each one. I'd ask if the board could just take that and review it, and if you have any questions. Anything that's kind of outstanding, we bring before the board as a separate topic.
Right, there's nothing
So I don't
there.
want to take any additional time, especially on a night like tonight, when we have a lengthy executive session ahead of us.
Right.
Okay.
And
So-
we got this electronically. too.
Yes, you received that
We have-
electronically.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Let me do this. is.
So then I'd like to ask the board if they're going to executive session.
So moved.
Well, that's
Second.
really the.
Yes, no, we,
Sorry.
if we're ready, we're ready.
Are we ready?
So moved? And a second? On the board? For purposes of lots of
Thank you.
things.
Pending litigation?
Pending litigation.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. And so we'll just let Tom wrap it up.
Thank you.
Yep, all in favor?
All in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you. And with that, thank you very much for joining us. And please join us in 2 weeks. We will be back at the Birdsall Fagan Courthouse on Spring Street at 7:30, May 6th, I believe we said, for our regular meeting. And please remember that our regular meeting, there are opportunities for the public to speak and tell us about organizational announcements, comment on anything that is on the agenda that night, or comment generally on anything of interest to the community at large. Look forward to seeing you then. Thank you very much.